Good afternoon and welcome to a sunny and slightly windy Donington Park for what is, I'm quite emotional to say, the final round of the 2018 British GT Championship. And I'll tell you what, it has been an astonishing season to come down to here. We always call this the Donington Decider because somehow, by the powers of racing, it always throws up that final piece of magic that happens in the final round. The Donington Decider is where it is going to be decided. There is no definite finish yet. We look at the favourites, of course, of Flick Haig and Jonny Adam, and if they do seal the title, then they will be history makers. We'll go into more about that later. But don't rule out these guys here. John Minshaw is absolutely gunning for the title and he starts on pole. We'll be seeing if we can chat to his teammate Phil Keane, who's just in there at the moment, shortly. I'll grab Jonny Adam as soon as he gets out on track. But to set the scene and to paint the picture of what I think is going to be an incredible 120 minutes of action, we've got the dream team up in the commentary booth. Martin Haven, Andy McEwen and David Pittard.
Thank you, Andy. Not sure what sort of dreams you have, but welcome everybody to Donington Park on what is a beautiful weather against the odds after the storms this week. Yesterday was very wet at Donington. The forecast not great earlier in the week for the Donington Decider. For the final round of the British GT Championship, this 2-hour encounter will be held in dry conditions and in sunny conditions as well. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me, Andy McEwen and GT driver David Pittard. Now, Andy, it's been busy so far today. Track temperatures are pretty cool, but the drivers in the GT cars with 2 hours of racing should have fewer problems than some of our sort of 15-minute sprint encounters.
Yes, you almost make it sound easy. The thing is, it's not. This is 2 hours of racing around one of the fastest circuits in the country, lots of places to overtake, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to make progress through back markers all that easily, because they'll be having their own battles as well. You've got pit strategy to throw in there as well, and of course some of the lead contenders in both GT3 and GT4 championship-wise have pit stop success penalties to take into account as well. So it's going to be a topsy-turvy couple of hours of racing, and I sense that in both championships we'll only really have a vague idea of who's going to come out on top in the last 20 minutes or so.
Well, you say both, but of course there's at least 4 championships, so we'll get into some of that later. David Pittard, what about for drivers? We focus on the fact that it all comes down to sorting out the last points at the last gasp, but in fact every race this season has only served to get you into a potential championship contending position, hasn't it? So does it change the mindset when you get to the end of the championship and there's a battle?
Yeah, points mean prizes ultimately, and the guys that are in it to win it this weekend have performed consistently across the year. Now they don't have to think about maybe not risking. I think a prime example of this was the Optimum car last weekend. Johnny, in his post-race interview, said he didn't want to risk taking the lead because he didn't need to, but potentially in this situation he's going to try and grab each and every point that he's got.
Well, we're looking here at Flick Haig, one of the title contenders, and they are leading the points. But Jonny Adam is down on the grid with Andy J, so let's see what he thinks about this Donington Decider.
I'm here with Jonny Adam, and Johnny, without being too delicate here, you're standing on the verge of history, both you and Flick. How aware are you of what could happen today?
Yeah, we've been aware obviously for a while now, obviously in the lead up to the Donington Decider, that obviously for Flick especially it can be the first potential female to win overall in British GT, which is a brilliant story. She's driven so well this year and she's put herself in this situation, you know, by hard work, a lot of testing, a lot of behind the scenes work to really get her up to this level. And yeah, personally nice to obviously work with a new team with Optimum, a new teammate with Flick, and yeah, to be in this situation is nice. And you know, I think probably speaking for everyone on the grid driving an Aston GT4 and GT3 is this is potentially the final race of this car. You know, personally, my 90th race with this beautiful vintage GT3 car that I've raced for 7 years, and it'd be nice if we could somehow go out on a high.
You've said that so humbly, Johnny, but if you go out on a high, you'll be a history maker. You'll be a 3-time British GT champion. No one's done that before. No
one's done it before. It's it would mean a lot, you know, it would definitely mean a lot. But motorsport, anything can happen, you know. I've been in the situation and it has unfolded for me, you know, in the past. But I think the key for us is just try and treat it as a normal race. You know, we're quite calm at the moment. See how the start goes. Obviously, the Lamborghini's in the prime spot, being on pole, but they have to try and win the race. You know, for sure they've got maybe an extra pressure that they have to go. You know, there's some good quick cars. Obviously, Graham Davison and Maxime Martin look fast in the Aston. We just have to do our thing. The only thing today is we've got 20 seconds in the pits from brand success, so that will hurt us. But the way Flick's driven so far this year, and especially in the dry this weekend, I'm sure we can get our elbows out and go racing and have a bit of fun this afternoon.
Because of course the key maths basically are you've got to finish in the top 7, haven't you? If you finish in the top 7, that's it. No, it doesn't matter what anyone else does.
Yeah, that's the key. But you know, with 20 seconds, it is hard to try and gain that advantage, especially. There's not a lot between the cars around the circuit, and not a lot between some really good drivers. So it's going to be a close race all the way through. That's where things can unfold, you know. But yeah, we're just going to have to see how the start unfolds for the first 2 laps, settle in, and just have a bit of fun. If we win it, we win it. But the key thing is let's go and have some fun.
Good lad. Enjoy it, mate. Good luck. Thanks, buddy. Cheers.
20 seconds, what's he talking about? Well, the top 3 cars in each race carry a pit stop penalty into the next race. So Johnny Adam and Flick Haig, who won last time out at Brands Hatch, carry a 20-second penalty into the pit lane, which means that they are in for the minimum pit stop time, which everybody must serve, plus 20 further seconds. So that drops them right back down the order. Now, for the umpteenth year in succession, John Minshaw and Phil Keane are on pole position, and come again. I think this is at least the 3rd year in a row that Minshaw and Keane have come to Donington as championship contenders and gone away empty-handed every year up until now. So will the Lamborghini end up winning? Well, it's their 3rd pole of the season. They've had 2 wins already. Andy is with Phil Keane. I wonder what the Barwell Lamborghini team are thinking.
Phil, what's going through your mind at the moment? Because you're in the best possible position, and yet you have to do very, very well in order to claim the title today.
Yeah, I mean, all we can do is win the race. Halfway there with qualifying, so we'll try and get a good start, stay in the lead, and control the race, and see what happens from there. Really.
What's the mindset? Is it just go for it, give it absolutely everything?
Yeah, I think, you know, pretty much nailed it. Yeah, just as fast as we can go, and our aim is to win the race, and whatever happens behind us happens. So that's our goal at the moment, and we'll see what happens from there.
How much will you be getting in your ear when you're in there? Because, of course, the key thing for you is that Johnny and Flick don't finish in the top 7. If you win and they're 8th, you could do it.
We'll just control the race the best we can, aim to win the race, and then at the end of the race we'll ask the question. I think that's the best way to go about doing it, rather than panicking and thinking, because you know what can go wrong when you start thinking about things too much.
I never think about anything, mate. Good luck. Cheers. Enjoy yourself. Thanks, Phil. Cheers.
Spoken like a true presenter. Well done, Andy J. Yeah, all they've got to do is win. Now, if it had been raining, then they would have had a much stronger chance. GT4 pole sitter are the Benz, number 42 Century Motorsport BMW, Ben Green and Ben Tuck, and they lie 2nd in the championship, ironically, to their teammate in the number 43 car. Dean McDonald starts car number 43, but he hasn't been in the car all year. Jack Mitchell has, and he is the championship leader. So BMW drivers 1 and 2 in the championship. It's looking good for the BMWs in the GT4 series, at least in terms of where they stand coming into the race. There's a couple of notable stories around not just the championship, but drivers in the championship. Derek Johnston, who won here in 2015, won here last year as well, is starting what will be his last British GT race. The number 17 TF Sport Aston Martin starts 6th on the grid. As Johnny Adams says, this is the swan song for the V12 GT3 car, because after this it will be replaced by the current Vantage, which has made its debut in the World Endurance Championship this year rather, and will be eligible for British GT next year. Rick Parfitt also announced last week that this will be his last race as well. So last year's British GT champion in GT3 going into his last race in the Team Parker Bentley. And David Pittard, you know, it's a... I wonder if that brings extra pressure, because obviously he knows it's going to be his last race. He's already announced that. You know, he'd love to win, but whatever his reasons for deciding to retire, then he's got other things to think about. We'll get to those thoughts in a minute. Down on the grid with Ben Tuck, the pole sitter in the GT4 class, is Andy Green.
Martin, you called this the car of the Benz, and of course Ben Tuck is here. Now, Ben, This is a really interesting position for you because you sit second in the championship, but you have pole. And actually, you're quite a few ahead. You're looking confident. How are you feeling?
Yeah, we are confident. We know we've got pace in the car. Obviously, Century and BMW have done a great job this year, and it's all come to a head at the final round. You can't really ask for a more exciting finish. Like you say, starting on pole. If we ever needed a pole, now was the time. We've got a pit stop penalty to deal with, but starting on pole, hopefully we can get that gap before the pit stops happen.
It's one of those things where this BMW has really improved race by race. What's been the secret?
Just hard work. BMW send their engineers over every weekend. Century are always working on the cars. Every weekend we're looking at data, just trying our best to get better and better, and that's exactly what we're doing. We are getting better every round.
And where's your head at right now?
I'm just calm. I just can't wait to get in the car. I'll let Ben do his job for the first hour and then just get in and get my head down and drive as fast as I can, no matter where I am. Even if something happens at the start, I'm still going to get in and just enjoy the race.
Good man. Good luck. Enjoy it.
Cheers,
we'll speak to you later. Excellent.
David Pittard, let's talk about that. You're the second driver. You've been in that position. All you can do is try not to bite your fingernails down to the knuckle. And what can you do? You can't do anything, can you?
No, you have to have complete faith in your teammate. And I think both Bens have a very good rapport between each other. Having watched them throughout the year, they've been tenths apart, whoever's in the car. And I think as a co-driver in Ben Tuck's position, you can't ask for anything more than that, because there's nothing more than you want to do than get out in the car yourself, and because you can pedal it as fast as you can, but when you have faith in your teammate that they can do as close and near a job as the two Bens do, then there's no better teammate.
And it's going to be a tight-fought battle. GT4, there's 13 GT3 cars, there's, 17 GT4 cars, so it's going to be a very tight battle. It's not just about the championship contenders, because all the regular front-runners, the Ginettas, the McLarens, everybody else, could easily end up winning the race. Qualifying was wet, and the race is dry, and that changes the balance a lot. Well, let's get down to HHC Motorsport. They were last year's champions in the GT4 class. They've got a completely different driver lineup. Patrick Mathiasen is going to start, and so that leaves Andy J free to chat to Callum Poynton.
Callum, here we are. It feels quite a long way back now, doesn't it? I hadn't realised that the cars went actually round the corner as well.
Yeah, it looks like a big
What a grid.
I know.
How are you feeling about today? Because it's quite a field to get through, isn't it?
Just a bit, yeah. Qualifying didn't really go to plan. Unfortunately, Patrick did lose one of his quick laps due to track limits, so it knocked us back 3 or 4 places. But we know the Ginetta is really consistent around here, and it is a big tyre track. So hopefully, some of the bigger cars, like say the BMWs and the Astons, hopefully will use the tyres a bit quicker. But I've got good trust in Patrick to get through the field, keep the car on pace, and just hopefully try and pick them off the first hour. And then if not, down to me the last 20 minutes or so, just let them tyres slowly just fall away, and hopefully we'll just keep consistent and make some places.
I mean, you start with the BMW right in front of you. They seem to have improved race on race. Is it really a point of waiting for the tyres, or can you get them on the jump?
I reckon try and get them into turn 1 and try and get them on the tighter, more braking corners really, but we can see we can play the consistency game, but if there's a gap there, I'm pretty sure Patrick will go through it. So I think it's going to be a tough race, definitely for everyone. So
there's the racing spirit. Yeah. Good luck, enjoy it, mate. Have a good one. We're the last people on the grid, so we better get out of here. Come on, Rob, we're off.
All right. Andy J, well done. And yeah, there's the racing driver. Everybody knows the old adage, you can't win the race on the first corner, but you can surely lose it. Oh yeah, but if there's a gap, we're going for it. Oh God. Yeah, it's trying to rein in to a degree that competitive element of a racing driver, and remember that there are 2 hours of racing. It's only when you get down to the last lap that lunges really become acceptable. But David, yeah, everybody here got in from shorter races, you know, maybe 15 or 20 minutes in Ginettas or something, or from single-seaters, you know, it's been sprint. And it is quite a mindset change, even to go into a 1 hour race, but certainly to go into a 2 hour race, or even a 3 hour race like Silverstone, you've really got to start thinking like a completely different kind of driver.
Well and truly. And the same, a lot of sprint racing is single-make cars as well. The multi-class and manufacturer championships like the British GT Championship do offer strengths and weaknesses to both cars, and you've got to play your advantages and exploit your opponent's disadvantages. So yeah, adds a big element in that respect as well.
And when you come from a championship like this, as you say, with different manufacturers and different class structures and therefore different speeds, that's sort of a springboard into racing abroad and doing things like European Le Mans Series, or racing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, or the VLN, the Nürburgring 24 Hours. You know, wherever you go beyond the national firmament, and this is definitely the top of, you know, GT racing in the UK, sports car racing, then wherever you go, this is going to be absolutely the standard, you know, where there are all sorts of cars of different abilities everywhere.
Yes.
So it's a great training ground for future careers, and David has been using that to his advantage racing abroad. Now, let's take a look at the grid as they head off on the final formation lap. John Minshaw and Phil Keane on pole with a Lamborghini Barwell lockout, as Johnny Cocker and Sam DeHaan were on the outside of the front row of the grid. And then it's Aston Central, the 47 car ahead of 75 are championship leaders. Park Farmer Niki Team in 11. Derek Johnston, his final race, he shares with Marco Sorensen. Lee Mole and Yelmer Berman, no sign of either of them retiring yet. Andrew Howard, this has never really been a happy hunting ground for the Beach Dean boss. With Darren Turner, they've yet to win a race this year. Could this be the one? That'd be an interesting twist. Ian Loggy, Callum McLeod's Bentley 9th on the grid, ahead of the Seal and Clutton RJN Motorsport car. And then the final of our GT3 cars, RJN, and then Rick Parfitt Jr. with Ryan Ratcliffe in their Bentley, and the McLaren 101 at the back of the grid. GT4 will start just a fraction behind, with the Benz Green and Tuck on pole in their BMW ahead of a slew of McLarens. And the mid-engine there again, like for the Lamborghinis, really working well in qualifying. The Benz doing a great job to put a rear-drive BMW in front of them. Aston Martins then with the Academy cars, Moore and Nickel Jones, Wood and Yonk, 61 and 62. As ever, the best of the Astons. As you look further back behind them, the Ginettas really struggled a bit in the damp. Jack Mitchell, the points leader in GT4, car number 43. He starts or he will be the second driver in, with Dean McDonald starting that car. Then the Ginettas, the 55 HHC Motorsport car there, as you can see, 23rd on the grid, and they were all stretching round the corner as they formed up on the dummy grid, but of course with a rolling start, that should be less of an issue. Spoke to Bob Neville before this morning's action got underway. Both RG and Nissans struggled a bit for pace in qualifying. That should be less of an issue in the dry. On-board camera there with Flick Haig, and as Johnny Adams said, not only does he have the potential to be the first ever three-time British GT champion, but Flick Haig has the potential to be the first ever female British GT champion in GT3, because of course Jamie Chadwick was not only the first female to win a title in British GT and GT4, but also at that stage the youngest driver to do so. So Flick Haig in the senior category, the overall champion potentially. Sam DeHaan with the pink highlights on his Lamborghini, just a little ahead of the green and red car of John Minshaw. But it is Minshaw who will start from the third pole position of the season. And can he finally break the hashtag Donington jinx? He has come here so many times to try and claim the title and has not succeeded. Will 2018 be the time? The lights have changed. The final race is underway. 2 hours at Donington Park. Lamborghini 1-2, the Jetstream Aston in third position. And we stream into the first corner. Ian Loggy's Bentley up the middle, and off goes the Nissan right at the very beginning. And in fact, the GT4 pole sitter almost got tagged there as the Nissan came back on. But I think Ben Green got through safely in the BMW as the Nissan comes back on right behind, and several cars coming down the grass, not all facing in the right direction. 55 HHC Motorsport, one of the two Academy Motorsport Aston Martins. Not sure about 61 or 62, and I don't think the 43 BMW was involved, but it was in that area of the pack. Now John Minshaw clearing off in front, and Sam DeHaan in second place. He's got a job to do here. If he can play rear gunner for a few laps, that will definitely help his Leaders Championship Challenge.
Yeah, it's Graham Davidson who's applying the pressure in third place at the moment. There's the 55 car finding a way past. From 62 was the Aston Martin involved in all of that at the top of the hill, and that car appears to have damage that may well require a pit lane visit. So
that's
55 delayed.
Moore in 62.
Yes, so both of those two potential class winners. Of course, the 55 car potential champion. We've got Bentley's at play there. That was up the inside. Rick Parfit trying to find a way up the order ahead of Ian Loggy. There's the GT4 battle.
72 with damage on the right rear, and that's exactly what you don't want to see. That's Adam Ballon. He'll be heading back to BES Motorsports, and that will be a long, slow crawl. The leaders will catch him, I think, before he gets the pits. Here's a challenge for second place, 47, Graham Davidson, the Aston Martin. We're riding right behind this battle for second with Flick Haig. David Pittard, what's she going to do here? She's got to try and race, but she's got to try and stay out of trouble as well. She moves up to third.
Yeah, just stay out of trouble there. Has read the situation well there, stayed tight, and where the two cars, the Lamborghini and the Jetstream Aston, touched very slightly, she's gained a position, so that's put her perfectly in the hot seat to challenge the second Barlow Lambo.
Well, the problem now is that she does have to, because she's at the head of the spear trying to get by the Lamborghini, so she's now going to feel the impetus that she's got to pass. But actually, right from the beginning of the championship with this Aston Martin, when they qualified on pole and had that race in the rain in Alton Park, she's shown absolutely no qualms about getting in there and being an aggressive, attacking driver, and she's looking to make the pass already.
Send it.
Yeah, looks to be inside, but DeHaan later upon the brakes. Now, of course, if there was one car that Sam DeHaan does not want to let through, it's the car that could beat his teammate to the championship. So this could be an interesting battle. Number 5, McLaren, is in pit lane, unfortunately. Lewis Proctor in the Tolman Motorsport car. It's all getting very congested here, though, and on the outside line is where Flick Haig finds herself. Graham Davidson looking at the inside. It's all a real bottleneck here, isn't it, behind the Lamborghini?
Well, it's a good line to take, though. It keeps your momentum up around the hairpin. It's very tempting to go in tight, but that sort of triangulates the corner. If you can sweep round, you can keep the momentum up, and she manages to do so. And again, here she comes, attacking Sam DeHaan. He shuts the door on the outside. Now, she doesn't want to dive down the inside because that will leave her slow on the exit. And right behind her is Graham Davidson in the 47 Aston, the one with the tan highlights, bronze highlights. He doesn't really want to get involved there as well. There's going to be an awful lot of nervous faces in garages for the next 1 hour and 55 minutes, or 58 minutes probably, before we get it settled.
Yes, we may well be only a couple of laps in, but already John Minshaw's built up nearly 4.5 seconds over this lot, so this is the job that Sam DeHaan is trying to do here, to delay the cars behind, keep them behind for as long as possible, and allow the 33 car to start building up this margin. Remember that the 75 car that Flick Haig will hand over to Johnny Adam later on, that has a pit stop penalty of 20 seconds, so it will spend 20 seconds longer in the pit lane than the 33 car out in front, and that's the margin they're trying to build up. There is the Mercedes on the inside. That was a really nice move made by Lee Mole. He clatters over the curbs. It wasn't pretty, but he does get the move made.
Yeah, it goes by Derek Johnston, the winner here in 2015 and 2017. McLaren winning in 2016. That's not going to happen this year, unless a GT4 car wins outright, and again, that's not going to happen this year. So Sam DeHaan, I wonder if this was always the game plan when they realised where they were in qualifying. Oh! And again, a little bit of robust down the inside from Lee Mole. Not afraid to rub door handles with Ian Loggy. Might pay for that later in the paddock if Ian Loggy comes and has a word with him, but it was relatively decent rubbing.
There was a gap, I think, wasn't there? There was a gap, and it then got bigger when he was already at the inside. So, yeah, aggressive stuff from Lee Mole. But I'm fascinated here, David, by what exactly will be going through the mind of Flick Haig, because she must know what's going on here. She wants to attack, she wants to get through, because she can see all of that beautiful clean air that she can use as the 25. Well, that's the 25 is off. That's the car that's making its debut this weekend. David Fairbrother sharing it with British touring car star Adam Morgan, but Adam may not going to go in the car, it would seem. But yes, so Flick Haig, how much of this is sort of to stay out of trouble, don't get too involved, and how much of it is, well, unless I get past this Lamborghini, I'm in the hornet's nest. Really, she needs that clean air, doesn't she?
Yeah, it's the world's widest Lamborghini at the moment that she's got to try and get past, and DeHaan is driving clean defensive lines, and you can just see it everyone backing up behind him. So there will become a point where frustration may kick in, and I think that's the big thing that Flick's got to stay on top of, is not to do anything rash, do anything desperate, and also look out behind. She's just got to keep a clean nose.
Well, through goes Graham Davidson, and down the inside as well. You saw Mark Farmer in number 11 TF Sport Aston Martin trying to make a pass. He didn't get through. But again, you see now the other Aston Martin drivers know that Flick Haig has got a chance to championship, but then so have Mark Farmer and Niki Team in that number 11 car. So it's up to them. They need to make progress. The other problem for Flick Haig with biding her time is the 20-second pit stop penalty, because they won last time out. They will spend longer in the pits than anybody else in their class, and fully 20 seconds longer than the Lamborghini.
GT4, meanwhile, there is your class leader. It is no longer a BMW, it is now a McLaren out in front, to be precise. It's Daniel Mackay in the Keep for Sure McLaren that has got the lead away from the BMW behind. That is Ben Green in car number 42. Third place is car number 4, which is the Tolman Motorsport McLaren, which is, we will believe, being started by Michael O'Brien. But the time screen telling us, yes, no, that is right, Michael O'Brien is in the car for this first stint. They are your top 3. This, though, is drama for one of the GT4 contenders. The number 55 HHC Motorsport Ginetta of Patrick Mathieson is into the pit lane, cracked windscreen, and I suspect further damage underneath, presumably as a result of that grassy trip on the opening lap. He's heading back out. Has that car lost a lap? I don't
Not yet,
believe
no.
it has. No.
He came in from 18th place. So 5th in the 6th in the GT4 class. John Mitchell leads the race by 6.5 seconds from teammate Sam DeHaan. Third place, well, at any given time, per any one of the Aston Martins giving chase. Very slow start indeed for Andrew Howard, who's normally pretty recalcitrant at putting his nose into trouble in the early laps of races, particularly here at Donington Park. But he is down last of our running GT3 cars, apart from Derek Johnston. What's happened to him? Why has he dropped so far down the order? No, he hasn't. That's not the way it is. His timing screen glitch. However, the battle for second, 69 Lamborghini, Sam DeHaan, just ahead of the Jetstream Aston Martin and Graham Davidson. Jetstream car with 1 win under its belt so far this season.
Back on board here with Flick as she heads up through Swans Curve, and in a way this is maybe not a bad way to play it. Let Graham Davidson be the man who's trying to poke holes in the defence of the Lamborghini. Let him be the aggressive overtaker and maybe try and follow him through if the gap opens up. This queue of cars isn't getting any more spread out, is it, as the race goes on? 8 of them absolutely together.
And David, that's the problem for Flick Haig in 75, is the dark blue car, or the all blue car behind, is another championship challenger, Mark Farmer. Looking here as McLaren plays McLaren, that's the GT3 car 101 run by BES Motorsports, going by the GT4 leaders, so that wasn't quite a battle of equals, but it does give you an opportunity to see how much different the GT3 car looks, much more aerodynamic wings. There's the Sicily Motorsport Mercedes out of the gravel, and that is Ian Loggy facing in the wrong direction. So he's had a little lunch. I was going to say, behind Mark Farmer, Ian Loggy might have been the sort of fireworks in that queue, but now Lee Mole is the Mercedes at the back of that queue. Oh, hang a minute, Flick Haig's just got back up into third as well, ahead of the Jetstream Aston. So, yeah, it's
all of that about biding their time. They're ignoring us completely and just going at it like a sprint race.
They tend to, I've realised from experience. What do we know about anything?
Well, listen, the 24 Hours of Le Mans always starts like a 10-lap repechage, last chance for the final at the Formula Ford Festival, so I don't see why this should be any different.
This was entertaining. On the inside went Davidson, in the middle was DeHaan, and Flick Haig read the situation perfectly, realised what was going on and cut back to the inside, and it was Lee Mole and Ian Loggy who made contact. Now Ian was on the inside, and that little bit of side-to-side contact, just enough to unsettle the Bentley, and around she went.
What else happened there was Derek Johnston got up the queue as well. The 17 Aston Martin jumped the number 11 car, Mark Farmer, who was going backwards. So Flick Haig, championship leader there in third place. Second in the points is John Minshaw, and he is leading the race, but third in the points, Mark Farmer and Niki Team, and they're going backwards. That's not good for them.
Yes, if the 33 car wins the race, then 6th place is what Flick Haig and Johnny Adam need to guarantee the title. Any further down, and they start relying on countbacks, which they would lose. So they can't afford to tie on points. Into the hairpin at Goddard's they go. Sam Dehan just starting out now to slip a bit wide of a few apexes, and just a bit too late on the brakes as he tries to keep the ever keener to get through. I think Flick Haig behind him, flicks the outside down towards Redgate Corner. Now that won't work, but what she might try and do is come back to the late apex, carry the speed through Hollywood. She's not quite close enough.
Well, David Pittard, there are places where, as a driver, you will try and force the car in front to defend, so they're slow out of the corner. But, you know, you've got to be quite clever about it, because everybody knows where you can pass it, which is pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, there's a very fine balance between, setting them up setting them up to pass them on the exit of the corner here. So, Flick may show her nose on the inside, force Dehan tight, then flick to the outside, and then try and get the cut back to the inside again.
You can hear, just as we picked up the onboard, she had to breathe off the throttle a little through Starkey's bridge because she was too close to the Aston, so to the Lamborghini. So the Aston has got the pace. Little bobble behind there from Graham Davidson as he had a bit of a change of course mid-corner, but there's just not quite long enough a straight for her to get a full overlap or even to get alongside the Lamborghini. So she's going to have to work really hard on this, and actually maybe the Melbourne hairpin is starting to produce more options because there's lots of lines on the way in.
Yeah, there was a gap up the inside there for her to maybe try and go through, but she opted out of it. Still, Davidson behind as they start bumping and boring slightly. We've got 4 Aston Martins in a row, all trying to prise the door open on the Lamborghini. This, though, is where the next element of the race starts to kick in. Traffic. They've caught the back of the GT4 field. Anything could happen now.
Well, the good news, David, though, for Sam Dehan is once the leader's been by you and you're in a GT4 car, you're now really watching your mirrors because you know the rest are coming.
Yeah, you've had a little wake-up. This is potentially Flick's opportunity. Dehan has been driving very defensively, very well. He looks really strong on the brakes versus Flick. So this might be her opportunity where if Dehan is slightly uncertain as to which way to go around a GT4 car, she can dive on up the inside to make the move.
As we speak at the moment, she is 9.7 seconds, incidentally, behind the race-leading Lamborghini, which we haven't seen much of, but John Mincher at the moment doing everything he needs to here to start building up this margin. He also has the fastest lap of the race that he set a couple of laps ago. We're on the 9th lap of this 2-hour encounter, and it's all about this fight for second position, which includes 2 of the 3 championship contenders in GT3 for the championship. As they head down towards the chicane, the 55 HHC Ginetta is one of the next cars to go a lap down, and they're not going to get it on the way into the chicane, and that really holds up Dehan through the corner. Flick Haig's had a good run through there. Is there room up the inside? No, because Sam Dehan in turn is going up the inside of the Pan Markers. I do love that shot as they appear 3 abreast almost over the hill. To the outside goes Graham Davidson. He might be able to take 3rd place here. Around the outside, that gives him the inside for Goddard, and I think he's still there, so we could be about to see Flick Haig go down the order again.
Yeah, because she gets boxed in by the GT4 cars, which stay out wide. Normally the rule is stay on the racing line, the quicker car will find a way by, but where there is room like that, particularly at the Melbourne Loop, either down the hairpin or there at Goddard's, you can stay out wide and keep your battle alive. So Flick Haig drops back down to 4th place, Graham Davidson now up to 3rd. Sam Dehan just 22 years old and doing a pretty decent job in defence here. Now, this is all the AM drivers, in inverted commas, as opposed to all the pro drivers, which we'll get in later. So it's a relatively even battle, except he's not long on experience. Here's our GT4 leader, the number 10, the keeper Sure McLaren, Dan McKay, and he is leading what is the gap. It is about 3.2 seconds to Ben Green in the Century Motorsport BMW in 2nd place. And our championship contender, the 61 Aston Martin is in 4th place. In 3rd place, in the number 4 Tolman Motorsport McLaren, there is Michael O'Brien. In 61 is driver 5.
Oh, he's new.
Yeah, I haven't got much on him. If only Tom Wood had started that car, then we'd be a little bit better informed. But the championship leading car, the number 43 car, started by Dean McDonald, is in 6th position. We ride on board with Dean and the hopes of Jack Mitchell of winning this British GT Championship in GT4 ride with his teammate at the moment. Now, Jack's won with 2 different teammates so far this season. So we're hearing that there's a cracked windscreen on the number 75 Aston Martin. I thought a couple of the onboards, they previously did have a cracked windscreen on some of the cars. Windscreen isn't necessarily something that will get changed unless the crack is really in the driver's eye line. But with the bright sun glinting off it, David, is that going to be much of a distraction?
No, you're focused way beyond that small crack in the screen there. I think most race cars have cracks in the screens anyways. It's just standard.
This is how
it happened in the race.
So this will be a bit of gravel that somebody... Oh, some contact in front. Oh, yeah, Graham Davidson getting as close to Sam de Haan as you want. And do they then run through the gravel trap?
No, the damage was done there. It was either a bit of Lamborghini or a bit of Aston Martin that flew up and clipped the right-hand side of Flick's windscreen, and it doesn't take much sometimes. That little bit of bodywork did the damage, so she's still there though. She's still in fourth position and just sort of trying to hold her position in line at the moment. The gap to the race leader for the 75 car is 12 seconds now, so we're getting dangerously close to that 20-second bracket as we're side by side for second again with Davidson to the outside line, but he knows that if he goes to the outside down into the hairpin, that leaves the door wide open for the cars behind to try and filter through. So in the end, no change. And spinning Jaguar, though,
oh yeah,
is
22 or 44.
22. Steve McCulley, who has gone round, and the Invictus Games car will rejoin, but having lost a few positions.
Right, so there's our race leader. John Minshaw was, as you say, nearly 15 seconds in front of Flick Haig. Don't forget that Flick Haig will lose a further 20 seconds in the pit stop. So effectively, Minshaw's lead over Flick Haig is 13.2 plus 20. So he's 33 seconds ahead of the championship points leader at the moment. Now, that doesn't allow for any dramas or problems with any of the cars, but Flick Haig is 20 seconds in the hole. Sam de Haan 15 seconds in the hole. So at the pit stops, the 69 Lamborghini will stop being a factor here. But the other car that's got a penalty is Mark Farmer. The number 11 car finished in third place at Brands Hatch, so they will serve an extra 10 seconds in the pits. So 2 of our 3 championship contenders, the Aston Martins, are going to spend longer in the pit lane than the current race leader and the team that have come up short in the last 3 years, John Minshaw and Phil Keane.
Yes, they will, however, spend less time in the pit lane than the 75 Aston Martin. And the question after the pit stops is really going to be, as 5 Aston Martins now try and fit the chicane at once because they're lapping the GT4 car in Parfit, therefore tries to take advantage but can't. But yes, so the question will be after the pit stops, how many cars are between the 33 and 75? That's what really matters, because remember, if 33 wins, 6th place is what's needed for number 75. Johnny Adam, I think, is going to have to do some overtaking.
Yeah, I tell you what, there's a lot of very excited teams right now. You're right, Johnny Adam will have to earn this one. It's not going to come, is it? Nothing comes in the British GT Championship. All championships are very definitely earned, but this is going to be hard work right now, because Sam de Haan is doing a really solid job for John Minshaw and Phil Keane, his Barwell Lamborghini teammates.
Yeah, so nervous faces up and down the pit lane, and I'm sure that the faces within Barwell Motorsports are probably some of the most nervous, because the thing with this car is they've been in this position before here at Donington, and it hasn't quite worked out. There's always been something, often not of their making, that has taken them out of championship contention, and they'll just be running through all of those incidents in their minds now, thinking, surely it can't happen again this season. Graham Davidson, where was he going?
Wide.
That could give Flick Haig third place back. I don't think she's quite alongside enough, but that does take some of the pressure off Sam de Haan for the time being.
Well, the other thing that takes a little bit of pressure off Graham Davidson, David Pittard, is the stewards have announced there will be no further action into that little bit of contact when Davidson ran into the back of Sam de Haan. And that's logical, because that was a genuine racing attempt to get by, and the door was just closed and it was 2 into 1.
Yeah, no advantage was gained through contact by Davidson. So yeah, the stewards are letting the teams and drivers know that they're watching. But yeah, no action's been taken, so that's good. So they're good to race hard and fair for the rest of the 1 hour 40 now.
Yeah. Drivers also being warned about track limits. Mark Farmer being warned about cutting the grass too much through the old hairpin, or running out too wide on the exit of the old hairpin is usually the way when you're all out over the curbs, over the rumble strips, over the bit of concrete that helps keep the grass alive-ish during the winter at any rate. And then our GT4 battle, we're carving our way through there. At the moment, they are now up to... they've just about caught the GT4 leaders and gone by them, I think, haven't they?
Now there is the leader in GT4 up at McLean's. That's still Mackay. He's got this ever-increasing margin, it seems, over Ben Green, who is in second place. The margin at the start of this lap was 5.3 seconds between them. There is your outright race leader, even John Mitchell, he's now started to carve his way past the top 5 runners. 43 BMW comes through. That is McDonald, the points leader. They will not have any success penalty to serve in the pit lane either. So whilst they're running down in 5th at the moment, they should, in theory, jump up the order at least slightly after the pit stops. Really, the car they were most concerned about, in a way, was the 55 HHC Ginetta, because they also would not have had to serve a success penalty, whereas the car was second in the points, the 42 BMW does. So the fact that the Ginettas had issues already in this race takes a little bit of the pressure away from Jack Mitchell.
Jack Mitchell, winner in Oulton Park with Ricky Collard. He also won with Alexander Sherpen in Silverstone, and he won at Spa with Dean McDonald. So not one, not two, but three, and there's our GT4 leader off.
Oh dear, on his own by the looks of it. What happened there?
Well, was he watching the mirrors? Now, I was about to say, actually, David, that occasionally, you know, you'll have a chance to look in the mirror and see what you know is the Barwell Lamborghini, say, coming, okay, here's the leader. But actually, a savvy GT4 team will say, the leader is behind you, the next car behind you is the leader, i.e., don't fight him, don't lose time. Oil at turn 1. Now, who has lost the oil?
Yes.
I bet I can guess where the oil's coming from. Who do we know has had frontal damage?
Yes, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Is that the 47
Aston
Martin? In which case, everybody behind him is running over the oil. Indicators on there, I've seen you, I'm going left, although you could read that as I've seen you, you go left. So, you know, just that one simple act there, David, is easy to miscommunicate.
Yeah, I think it's generally the term is, this is the side I'm staying, feel free to go through, and that just clears up any doubt in the mind of both the overtaker and the overtaken. So some really good heads-up driving there from Ben Green. He doesn't want to be compromised, he doesn't want to compromise the overtaker as well. He's just focused on building as big a gap over the rest of the GT4 now.
Challenge for second for the first time. There's an Aston alongside the Lamborghini. Graham Davids, well, second time, because the last time he outbraked himself. He outbraked Sam DeHaan. Does DeHaan cut back under him? He doesn't. Derek Johnson and Mark Farmer side by side. Rick Parfitt right behind them. And Flick Haig saw the door open. Now, can she get alongside the Lamborghini? She can't quite, as the Sicily Motorsport Mercedes stays out of the way. But one Aston Martin has broken free, and that's taken 15 valuable laps. That's a really, really hugely important and impressive drive, I think, from Sam DeHaan, just 22 years old, and he may have gone a long way to helping John Minshaw and Phil Keane keep this championship very much alive. 42 BMW, the pole sitter, now leading in GT4. After number 10, McLaren went off.
GT4 leader on the grass there. They're going to outfield hairpin now. I thought you're right,
that's
David. 43, not 42.
Leader.
Championship leading BMW, you're quite right, has been off. The nervous faces get even more nervous down in the bits. But
I'll be very nervous at Century if he keeps doing that.
Yes, indeed. He got away with it, though, thankfully. The grass is still damp from the lots of rain we've had. As the safety car is scrambled. Safety car being scrambled. This is a replay of...
Is there oil down? Well, this is because the oil at turn 1, but is there oil also down at the old hairpin?
You'd have to assume so.
Well, I don't know. He may just have been watching the mirrors. David, I mean, the old hairpin is a corner that needs 100% concentration, isn't it?
It's potentially a bit of both, really. There was a whole train of GT3 cars behind him, but there is the possibility that that oil has been trailed around to the old hairpin as well.
Now, we talked about things out of your control. John Minshaw has done everything right. He built up an 11-second advantage over his closest pursuer, a 13.5-second advantage over the points leader, and that's gone. Now, what may well happen is there may be a queue of GT4 cars between him and the GT3 front runners behind him, and he may be able to jump away at the start because he'll be faster when he's released by the safety car than the GT4s, and the GT3 cars will be held up by them. It only takes one or two to really slow the rest of the field. But, you know, that's really heartbreaking when you've worked so hard for that. Now, Century Motorsport on the radio, is that to Jack Mitchell?
quite possibly. I'm sure that he'll be wanting to know what's going on here, but
they are talking to Jack on the radio. Okay, so this is 17, Derek Johnson, and 1, Rick Parfitt, two men who announced that this will be their last ever race.
Time for one more bit of contact.
There's always time for a bit more
rivalry.
90 minutes more rubbing time, or for them 30 minutes more rubbing time before the end of the first hour.
Yeah, again, they got away with that, but that was not a part of the circuit you want to be making contact at. To your point, Martin, with regards to GT4 cars between the leaders, I think there are maybe 3 GT4 cars separating the leading Lamborghini and the second placed Aston Martin. That is not enough for John Minshaw on the restart to build up this. Oh, there's a few more. There are now hang on, where's the Aston Martin? Where is Graham Davidson? He's not there. Graham Davidson is in the pit lane.
Graham Davidson is in the pits.
Why is the question?
There's oil down. He ran into the back of somebody else, and he's in the pit lane now. I'm saying 2 + 2 + 2.
Yes, I tend to agree with you there, but the point I was about to make was that on the restart, the safety car really came at the worst possible moment for Minshaw, because it was just as this car, 47 Aston Martin, had broken free of the Lamborghini
Now look
train.
at the front of the Aston. It's got the black marks around that gaping maw, and they are looking underneath. Now, is it oil or is it brakes? Is it losing brake fluid? I can't imagine that there's enough brake fluid coming out that it could make the surface slippery at Redgate and he'd still survive another corner.
Yes.
Or has he run out of brakes because the car is leaking oil onto the discs? Because that, lubricating the discs with oil doesn't really help. Has he got a hub problem? I mean, there's all sorts of things. Or is it a suspension arm?
Well, the contact he had was on the front right corner, I seem to remember, wasn't it? So I don't think it's going to be damaged directly from the contact. You may be right that contact damaged something that they can now access more easily from that side of the car.
Or is he just twonking the curbs? Has he broken a steering arm on the curb? Either way, whatever else, they're not going to win this race.
No, and as to my point, it means that the one car that may have challenged Minshaw on the restart won't be there anymore. It's still the nearest GT3 car to him will once again be the teammate Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. There will be 5 or so GT4s.
42, in fact, all these GT4 cars, they are solid gold for John Minshaw because they're between him and his own teammate. But so the way this works is when you're released by the safety car before the Melbourne Loop, safety car will clear off. Minshaw will then back the field up as slow as he can, slow the GT4s right down, and nobody's allowed to overtake until they pass the start-finish line, sort of halfway up the straight there. And that means the faster he goes up the Melbourne hairpin, out round the loop and down the straight here, the bigger a gap he creates to the nearest GT4 car, who won't go that quickly, and nobody behind can overtake the slower GT4 cars until they've started the next lap effectively. So he might be able to re-earn maybe 10 of those seconds. We saw Flick Haight doing that a couple of times when we had safety cars erode the lead in Brands Hatch, didn't we? She was able to jump away and leave slower traffic behind.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting restart, isn't it? Let's remind ourselves, first of all, of the initial start of the race, where it does look almost like there was a plan there, doesn't it, at Barwell Motorsport, because John Minshaw was never contested into the first corner. Sam Dehan simply slotted in line in second, immediately turned to defence. There was a bit of contact there between the 11 of Mark Farmer and the 17 of Derek Johnston. The Nissan ended up in the weeds coming through Redgate corner and was amongst the GT4 traffic. David, I could see leaning in to try and find out, the same as I was about to, what happened in GT4, because it all went wrong, didn't it, at the top of the hill. There is the GT4 pack behind. There was some separation at the rolling start, as there always is between the two classes. They didn't get involved with each other. It was more the GT4 cars tripping over each other. Flick Haight with, at that time, an intact windscreen, slotted into 4th position, which was where she would sort of stay for a while, either there or 3rd place, given depending on which corner they were at, as she and Graham Davidson continued to change position. Now, this, David, might give us a better idea of what happened in GT4. On board with the 43 BMW, what are you seeing?
So Dean has gone to the outside, everyone's stacking up on the inside, so he's going to try and take advantage around the outside there. Can get forced onto the grass, but he's got away with it there. And we cut away just before.
Yes, up at the top of the hill, it all just goes a bit squirrely, sort of 15 from down.
Right in front there, we could have spotted it.
Yeah, that was, if we get that on board to last 3 seconds longer, we know what happened potentially, because I think the accident started just in front of the championship leading car, which of course is why the whole team were nervous that they hadn't qualified that well. They were right in the middle of the pack, and all go wrong at the first corner. Yeah, it's the danger zone, isn't it? And as we always say, David, the old adage is you can't win it in the first corner, it can be lost, and it's not always your fault, is it?
No, of course. A couple of cars will have been caught out with nowhere to go. Done a lot of grass tracking there, and I think the 55 Ginetta did well to avoid major damage, but by the looks of things, they had to pit because Mattison cut a lot of the grass and actually filled the radiators up. So that's why they had an additional pit stop.
Yeah, they have pitted. Also, by the way, through the pits behind the safety car, J.M. Littman in the Ultratech RJN 370Z, their number 54 car. Now, J.M. Littman, who's done a lot of 24-hour series racing, making his British GT debut with Bob Neville's RJN team. So this is a very, very different thing for him. You know, normally you do an hour stint, come in, refuel, do another hour stint, and then you go off for a couple of hours and come back and do some more. Next time he gets in one of these cars, it'll be Easter. Well, let's get down to the pit lane and hear from Andy J. He's with Maxime Martin.
Maxime, what happened? We saw you had to come in there. We saw that we were speculating it could have been brake fluid or oil leakage, but it looked like you actually just skidded on oil and it all went a bit wrong.
Yeah, there was some oil and you had contact with I think a GT4 car. So it's I mean it's part of racing when you have so many cars on track. They had a great fight between each other in the beginning, but it's not the best way to end the season. We are now I think 1 or 2 laps down, so I think the race is definitely over for us. But like I said, we had a great season, and that's not the best way to finish.
So, but probably a mechanical issue with the car, which looks like they've patched up.
Yeah, I think a rim broke, so I think a tire puncture and some issues so at the front. But again, we tried to repair quickly. They tried to go, and if it can continue, we continue. If not, we just stop, and it's over for us.
Well, hopefully we'll see you out there giving it your all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, Maxime and teammate Graham Davidson, one win this season. They were on the podium a couple of times before that, but victory at Spa-Francorchamps. If you're going to win anywhere, that's always a good place to win, especially if your name's Maxime and you're a Belgian. And a Belgian Spa winner and son of a 24-hour of Spa winner as well. So, that was a big win for them. Last time out, of course, at Brands Hatch, they had that dramatic incident where Maxime was driving, where something the size of a fist came through the windscreen and just shattered glass all over the car. And he came rolling very slowly into the pits, the end result of which was actually, luckily, no glass fragments in his eyes, so he was all cleared and good to go. But, that was a highly dramatic moment. Big lump of concrete got spat up by a tyre through the car. And if you're wondering what big lumps of concrete are doing on the racetrack, they're those red and white things.
Yes, they are. They're a menace sometimes, aren't those curves, whether they're intact or not. But with the force of these racing cars running over them for long periods of time, sometimes little bits of them can come loose. And unfortunately, that's what happened at Brands Hatch.
Yeah. And they have to survive the winter, and like all other road surfaces, racetracks are just as susceptible to damage from frost and damp and everything else as normal roads. And so, we know how often potholes appear, and particularly the curbing. It's hard to really describe the physical forces that a slick racing tyre, even on a GT car, will produce that generate, and particularly with downforce, that generate the cornering grip that these cars have, which is just terrifyingly high. And what that does in terms of sort of pulling at the track surface, literally, and that's why bits of curb and occasionally bits of tarmac get pulled up by the tyres.
Exactly, and it is phenomenal, isn't it, the forces involved in this level of motorsport. Certainly you see it with the speeds that they're carrying, but you forget sometimes the what's making them go that quickly.
Crikey, look at the trail of oil there. Now that does look like a drunk driver has sort of been doing the white lining machine. What are you doing, David Pittard, when you're behind the safety car here? What can you do in terms of keeping tyre and brake temperature? Is it really possible, or is it just a sort of a fading exercise?
Well, obviously you see drivers weaving quite aggressively. That generates lateral force, which creates heat in the tyre, which will keep them warm for when the track goes green again. You can also ride the brake as well, which generates internal tyre temperature because you are literally heating the tyre from the inside out. So you can do that initially whilst the safety car still has its lights on, but as the lights go off, which it looks like I think they have, then you really get to work and really get aggressive in weaving the tyres to get them up to proper temperature, brakes up to temperature, and make sure you're ready to hit turn 1 at full chat.
So there is our championship leader, Flick Haig, and she currently lies in 4th place. John Minshaw leads in the Lamborghini from teammate Sam de Haan, but there are half a dozen slower GT4 cars between the race leader and his teammate. And so this is where now Minshaw slows the field right down, because he's going to use that slow traffic to clear away. Imagine you're on the motorway, you get in front of a group of trucks, and then when you get out of the work zone, you can get back up to normal speed, and so you fly off. All of your mates are stuck behind the line of trucks, and they have to wait till they're out of the way, and that's exactly what's going to happen here
as well. That's going to hold him up even more.
Yeah, some of the GT. Oh yeah,
has got a puncture. He'll be pulling into the pit lane, but nevertheless, that won't be going quickly. So John Minshaw was 13 seconds ahead of Flick Haig before the safety car, and away he goes like a scalded cat. Now let's look for his teammate Sam de Haan, who won't be in any hurry to pass any GT4 cars. There's Sam de Haan. Behind him is the blue car of Mark Farmer, who lies 3rd and is still a championship contender, don't forget. Ahead of Flick Haig, 75. I'll get my numbers right in a minute. There's Flick Haig, the white and blue and black 75 car, and she lies in 4th place, the championship leader. So John Minshaw gets to do it all again. He crossed the line 9.2 ahead of Sam de Haan, 10.1 ahead of Flick Haig. So the safety car cost him 3 seconds. It could have been so much worse if they had cleared that GT4 traffic and all the GT3 cars are right behind. We'd be talking about maybe a second or two, but he's got 10 of his 13 seconds back, and around the outside, Mark Farmer being very bold. Doesn't work, Flick Haig's inside him, but what about Sam de Haan? On board with Flick Haig, can't get inside Sam de Haan up into Coppice. And Mark Farmer's on the outside now. They're going to have to be very careful with each other as they go by the Invictus Motorsport Jag. They've got another Aston behind them. That's Derek Johnston in 17, then Rick Parfitt in the number 1 Bentley, which really doesn't seem to have the pace at the end of the season that it did at the beginning. The Bentley struggled for pace for half the year, and is doing so here at Donington Park.
Yeah, this is a circuit that usually suits that car quite well. Higgles move on the inside for Farmer for 2nd place. He outbrakes himself though, and we've seen this before, haven't we? Straight back up the inside on the exit of the corner goes Sam de Haan. Really nervous times here for Flick Haig, who's watching this all unfold in front.
So David, who's the 22-year-old rookie? Remind me again. The guy who's not outbraking himself. Where did he develop this ability to judge line and length under pressure so superbly?
I think Niki Team's had a word with Mark Farmer under the safety car to say, get your elbows out, because he's super aggressive.
Yeah.
What a move that
was.
Well,
they were very keen to get racing at breakfast this morning, and you saw the team fans up there, but Mark Farmer, really keen to go racing. They didn't want to go out and morning warm-up and risk damaging the car or risk convincing themselves that they need to make a setup change. They were happy with the car after qualifying, and he does make a good move on Sam de Haan to go through into 2nd place, but the leader was 14.3 seconds in front of this battle at the end of the last lap. So he was 15 seconds ahead of Flick Haig, plus her 20-second pit penalty, don't forget. It's a big advantage for the GT3 leader. There's our GT4 race leader, 42 BMW Ben Green. He's ahead of Michael O'Brien in the number 4 McLaren. Then Dan McKay, who started on pole and went off in the number 10 McLaren and is back on. He's 3rd in class, and 4th in class is this man, Dean McDonald, in all the Jag. That's going a lap down. There's the McLaren in fact, that's not even the right McLaren in front. So this is the car that leads the championship, and there is Flick Haig going a long way around the outside. Derek Johnson inside. Don't turn her around, Derek. That's not going to do your Christmas card list any good. And she allows him to go through.
Yeah, I think Flick just needs to say, do you know what? If you're all that desperate to go through that you're going to risk putting me on the grass or damaging my steering or suspension, then on you go, because she's going to lose these positions anyway when she pits. In a way, David, is it worth her just saying, on you go, I'll just follow you around, stay with you. It might cost me a couple of seconds net loss over the course of the race, but that's better than being fired into the weeds.
Yeah, I think Tom Ferrier from TF Sports had a word with both his drivers, because both TF Sport cars have been on fire since the restart. Looking super aggressive. I think this bottleneck behind Sam DeHaan, it has a high possibility to get messy, so
real worry
just
now
keep,
also, sorry, real worry now for the GT4 points leader, who's the 43 BMW. They're all coming all over him. Again, Flick Haig can't afford to get shunted off, nor can the that's the 42 car, in fact, the race leader in GT4, he can't afford to get shunted off either. Don't forget the 42 car that leads the race, second in the points, and around goes the Nissan and Andrew Howard. His Donington jinx continues.
What does he have to do to get a result here? He's been minding his own business.
Not driving Aston Martin, I don't know. I don't know, you're absolutely right.
Contact there for DeHaan and Johnston, as Johnston's desperately trying to find a way through. Flick Haig is there as well. On board with Flick, she goes to the outside of both of them. And where is Rick Parfitt? He's into the back.
Parfitt bounces off the back of Derek Johnson. Flick Haig. Now the problem is, puncture left rear for Derek Johnson. The problem for Flick Haig is every place she loses is costing her time. On top of the 20 seconds they're going to lose to the Lamborghini in the pit lane.
It's not a puncture for the 47 car. I think it might be fluid of some sort coming out of the back of it, isn't it? Because the tyre is still inflated. But that was a headbutt from the Bentley, which now, having heard you criticising that it's lack of pace, Martin, is starting to come forward.
Well, it's a bit skew-whiff at the front as well, so I wonder how much damage that might do.
Yes.
We've seen the Bentley survive some knocks in the races and being rebuilt after some fairly severe shunts, but you never know what damage at the front might do. All it needs to do is disrupt the cooling airflow. It doesn't even need to puncture the radiator. If you disrupt the cooling airflow, and there's a big problem for Derek Johnson, flies by, Flick Haig flies by him as he just basically lifts off totally. So either something's just gone bang and he's got no drive, or something has just sent off a klaxon in the cockpit and all the alarms have come on like a Christmas tree. And he's pulled off.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the end of the day, the end of the season, and the end of his career as a British GT racer for Derek Johnston.
That's a shame.
That is a real shame. That's not a fairy tale ending.
What this does do, of course, is it takes one car out of the equation that was going to be in front of Flick Haig, or Johnny Adams it will be in that car, after the pit stop. So, and this could be another one as well, because that skew with front end that you mentioned, Martin, on the number one Bentley, the outgoing champions. Yeah, that's
skew with front ends, in my experience, don't become less skew with as the day goes on. So we've seen this before, where the Bentley shed bits of radiator grill. It's not a grill, it's just a little bit of very light plasticky carbon fibre composite, so it can spit that off. And David, that's not the problem, but if you lose airflow through the radiator, if the air stalls at the front because it's not getting ducted properly, then gradually the temperature climbs, and soon, you know, we've got an hour and 15 minutes left. Soon you're going to see those alarm bells coming on, and it's going to start overheating.
Yeah, it's on the other side of the bonnet, so Rick should be fine. Yeah, just got to keep it going. Bentley build those cars strong, and it looks like it's taken a beating, but I'm sure they'll just rip that off in the pit stop in only 15 minutes time, and they'll be fine.
Now, you say that, that's if the stewards don't decide that actually there's a danger that bit might fly off into the car behind, and he is being closely pursued by a car behind, and then give him a black and orange flag and say, get into the pits and get that fixed. Team manager of car 7 is being told to go to race control, so I haven't seen what Ian Logie has done for that. Oh, track limits, car 7 and 10. So turn 10, which is, where's turn 10? Oh, that's the exit, so the exit for Ian Logie. So, yeah, the Bentley looks a bit second-hand. I mean, effectively, that is just sort of a bit of cardboard. Not actually cardboard. I think they charge probably for more than cardboard. But there's Ryan Ratcliffe watching from the pit lane, watching himself, watching himself, watching himself, watching himself. And there's his teammate, Rick Parfitt. Parfitt, by the way, in 4th at the moment, so Flick Haig still in 5th, despite the fact that we have lost one Aston Martin. Her net progress has been 0. There's Johnny Adam watching from the pit wall.
Yes, and Flick Haig, in fact, just up the inside. Rick Parfitt missed his braking point there, I think, didn't he? Into Redgate, a little distracted maybe by that bit of bodywork flapping up in front of him, but this has all actually been quite nicely into the hands of Sam DeHaan. He's now 2.3 seconds in front of these two. Flick Haig, in the meantime, is over 12 seconds, crucially, ahead of anybody else. So now the damage that was going to be done by this pit stop success penalty is being lessened because of a few others falling off the road.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. She's 22 seconds behind John Minshaw, plus 20 seconds in the pit lane. So the net advantage that Phil Keane will have at the moment over Johnny Adam is 42 seconds. 42 seconds, that is a lot for Johnny Adam to make up. He won't have 42 laps in which to do it. He's got to lap a second a lap quicker than Phil Keane. That's a very tall ask. Fastest car on track at the moment, that's John Minshaw, 129.8, the fastest race lap by anybody, and he just set a 131.8 last time round, Flick Haig a 31.7, so he's building his lead little by little, and now that he's been through the field once, they're aware that the leader can be coming, and so even the least observant of GT4 drivers who've got their own job to do and fight their own battles will... I mean, that's one of the great things about having such a lurid livery, is it's easy to spot. On the grass is Lee Mole. He's had a little dive down the Melbourne loop that didn't quite work out according to plan, and he's dropped down the order. 47 is back out.
More contact there. Ian Logie gets elbowed out of the way by the RJN Nissan. That was an aggressive move from Chris Buncombe.
Well, Chris Buncombe likes, you know, he's got pointy elbows for a reason. He doesn't mind getting inside there. If you leave the door open, what's he supposed to do?
Well, I suppose so. Ian Logie's now going to try and fend off the 47, the recovering 47 Aston Martin that is a lap down on these cars. And there was a bit of leaning going on there again, and that car decides to bail out of it, perhaps sensibly.
He's trying to stay out of the way, isn't he? Because he knows he's not in the battle anymore, and all he's going to do is hold up other cars and ruin other people's championship chances.
Yep, there's the number 10 McLaren, sorry, not, it's the, yes, it is the number 10 McLaren working its way down the hill. That is the car that's coming second in GT4. Number 4 McLaren is third in GT4, so McKay ahead of O'Brien by, well, that much.
In fact, Dan McKay's just gone in front of Michael O'Brien, so he's taken the position on that last lap. So he's fought his way back up into second, because he was down 4th or 5th, wasn't he, after he briefly turned in a rally crossing experience a little earlier on.
Yes, and he is how far behind the race leader? 3.5 seconds. So watch those lap times with interest, see whether or not he can close in on Ben Green in the BMW. There is the BMW that's leading the class, so top 3 in GT4 on your screen, and the Aston Martin in the background is in 4th position. They work their way back through, and the McLaren with its headlights ablaze is already starting to gap the other McLaren behind it to the tune of, I'd say, well over a second.
But on the last lap, and admittedly this is when the McLarens were swapping positions, the BMW was just as fast as the number 10 car and a fraction faster than the number 4 McLaren. So it was important that the number 10 car got by number 4, but it's not going to be on the tail of the BMW in a couple of laps. It's going to be a work of attrition. Now we've got an hour and 11 to go. Pit lane opens after 60 minutes of the race, so at the 1 hour mark, and remains open for 10 minutes. And while most teams will want to get their quickest driver in, or quicker driver in, as early as possible, if everybody all does that on the very first lap that the pit lane is open, then that actually makes for a very slow pit stop for everybody. So we've often seen that Barwell, for instance, will go a couple of laps beyond the beginning of the pit window to try and make sure the pit lane is relatively empty when they come in to make their changes. Have to wait and see what the other strategies are, how they transpire.
Yeah, we saw Team Parker Racing deploy a similar strategy actually at Brands Hatch last time out to good effect. Their car running 4th at the moment and catching the 3rd place Lamborghini, but that's been harder to pass than a kidney stone this weekend, hasn't it? Sam DeHaan has been really difficult to overtake. That's why he's still in 3rd place, despite clearly not being quite as quick as some of the cars that have been challenging. But whether or not Rick Parfitt can break through the defences, we'll wait and see.
Do you know what you say that about Sam DeHaan? His fastest race lap, a 1:30.85, and there's only 5 other cars that have actually gone quicker at any stage in the race. and not consistently quicker enough. So
Well,
Sander
he was
Hahn
actually quicker
still
than
in
Parfit.
third.
Yeah, quicker than Parfit that time as well. So he's lapping well at the moment. Is Dahan. There is the number 55 HHC Jeanette. Now, where have they got themselves to? They are 18th overall, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in GT4. So they're back in the decent points. And if they can, remember, they don't have a pit stop success penalty. They may be able to jump up the order further. Stop and go penalty though for car number 7, Ian Loggy. That's the second of the Team Park Racing Bentley Continental GT3s, a 20-second stop-go penalty, which could be served, I think, during the pit stop, but it still is an extra 20 seconds that they'll have to spend in the pits. That will take them out of the equation. Another car, therefore, that is not going to be an issue for the 75 Aston Martin post-pit stops.
Well, it negates the 20-second deficit that the Aston Martin 75 has to it, but if it is in front of them, it'll still be an issue because it will still be in front of them. However, at the moment, as you say, it isn't. Lee Mole here in the Mercedes, battling for position. Well, he's not actually, because number 47 Aston is a lap behind, isn't it? So trying to work its way through. 47 Aston swiping a lap down, is still in 12th place.
Yeah, so that'll be inside he goes. Mole understandably not making it that difficult for him. You've got a feel of it here, haven't you, for Graham Davidson? Clearly, David, he had one of the quicker cars earlier on, and now he's, well, what do you do when you're in his situation? Because you know that you're not going to win the race. It's the last race of the season as well, so the points don't particularly matter. And yet you've still got to soldier on for this final hour of the race, knowing there's really not that much point.
Yeah, well, I spoke to Graham before the race, and he was very fired up. He says, we were talking about next year and what his plans were, and he said, first of all, I'm just going to go out and win this race. So he's clearly fired up to do that. When you are a couple of laps down, there's nothing worse than just driving around almost for the sake of it, really. The fact he's out with the top boys where he should have been, admittedly, before the incident, it will give him good confidence to know what could have been effectively, and hopefully that makes him sleep a bit better when he heads up to Scotland tonight.
Right, that was the car that was second in the GT4 Pro AM Championship. Kelvin Fletcher and Martin Plowman's Nissan heading back out of the pit lane. That's not a regulation pit stop. They are right at the tail of the field. The car that was leading, it was the 66 Team Parker Mercedes, Nick Jones and Scott Malvern. And where are they? They are they're quite a long way ahead. They're 4th in GT4 at the moment. So it looks as though that Pro-Am Championship's still in the hands of the points leaders, although they did go off on the opening lap.
GT4 race leaders, by the way, and championship contenders, the 42 Century Motorsport BMW. Team manager is being summoned to the headmaster's office. Now, why, we know not. It could be a track limits infringement too many, or well, it can't be anything else really at this stage, possibly a yellow flag infringement.
They haven't been notified on our screen for track limits infringement, so it might be something to do with the safety car passing under yellows or not slowing down sufficiently. Or the safety car procedure, you would guess, but again, that is just hazarding a guess. So we'll wait and see.
They were 10 points off the championship lead coming into this race, but of course they were always going to struggle to take the title this weekend because they have to serve an extra 15 seconds in the pit lane because of their second place finish last time out at Brands Hatch. So 15-second success penalty. There's Ian Loggy serving the stop-go penalty, so you obviously can't. Yeah. Or maybe he could have served that in the pit stop, but he has to do it within 3 laps,
I don't think so, because then you don't get the stop-and-go bit. You don't get the extra trip through the pit lane, which costs in itself sort of 20-odd seconds.
Yeah, so you also have to do it within 3 laps of being served notice, and that would have taken him well beyond that if they'd waited till the pit stop window. So out he goes, and shouldn't lose a lap, but they were already out of contention after the spin. Even further so now. This, by the way, is the gap at front of GT4. I suggested it may come down, and come down it is at the moment, because number 10, McLaren of Daniel McKay, is closing all the time on the race-leading BMW of Ben Green, whose team manager is currently trotting up the stairs to race control to have a word with the race director and find out what exactly it is they've done wrong. And whilst he's up there, he may well miss his car, losing the class lead, because that McLaren is looming ever larger in Ben Green's mirrors and seems to be arriving with good pace enough shortly to carry it through into the race lead. Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? This car lies 23 points off the GT4 championship lead, by the way. The number 10, no, I beg your pardon, that's number 4 car, isn't it? So number 10 isn't a championship challenger.
The number 4 car, which lies third in GT4, is a challenger. The leader, the former leader now of GT4 is a championship challenger, and the points leader, car number 43, still lies in 4th place in GT4. So right now, Jack Mitchell in 4th, Ben Green and Ben Tuck in 2nd. Mitchell has the points advantage. When Green and Tuck led half a lap ago, they were going to take the championship as it was then. Of course, we've still got an hour and 5 minutes to go, probably and another lap or so after that. If it doesn't stop exactly on the 2-hour mark, that'll be where the final lap begins or so.
Looking at the GT4 gaps, with the 15-second success penalty, I think that the 42 car will come out just ahead of the 43 car, which is just ahead of the 55 car, which makes it a 3-car showdown for the GT4 titles.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Yeah, but then where does the Tolman Motorsport car come out? Because that McLaren is 3rd at the moment in the GT4 class, and with no pit stop penalties for the number 4 car, that might well cycle to the top of the pile. So, I mean, the points are there. And let's not necessarily count out Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones and the 61 Aston Martin, although they're a long way down. They're sort of counting themselves out. So we could have 4 cars for the GT4 outright title, the Pro Am title, trying to decide that as well. So we're focusing on the leaders on the road at the moment in GT3 and GT4, almost all of whom actually are still involved in the race, because John Minshaw, who leads in GT3, championship contender. Mark Farmer, 2nd in GT3, in the number 11 Aston Martin there, championship contender. And then Flick Haig in 5th place, championship contender. But 3 of our top 4 in GT4 are also in the top 3 in the championship.
Mark Farmer, by the way, is eating into this advantage that John Minshaw held. He's only 6 seconds behind now, and on the previous lap was over 2 seconds quicker than the leader. Now, traffic may be contributing to that slightly, but that has been a pretty consistent improvement in pace there for Farmer.
Well, I'd like to take full credit for that. I can't, obviously, but I'd like to. Now, he was very chipper at breakfast time. He and Niki Team really looking forward to this race. And do you know what? There's every chance they could end up winning this one. He is closing down John Minshaw. Oh no, hang on a minute. The number 11 car has got a penalty. It's got 10 seconds to serve in the pit lane. So every second he gets closer to Minshaw, or 2 seconds on a lap, then he's taking time out of that possible loss. So this is really important. And at the moment, he is 11.9 seconds ahead of Sam DeHaan in the 3rd place Lamborghini, which means that if that gap remains and nothing changes in the pit stop, they will come out in front of the 69 Lamborghini rather than jammed up behind it again. So he's got to continue that progress, because what he's trying to do now is give his teammate Niki Team a free rein to attack for the win, rather than to be jammed up behind the 69 Lamborghini.
And Niki Team versus Phil Keane is a fight you buy a ticket for, isn't it?
Team versus Keane, that is a unifying belt fight, isn't it? That really is. And you know what? You know, it might end up coming down to being that's the race that wins the championship for one of them.
Stella Motorsport Toyota here, losing a position in GT4 to the GT4 championship contenders, one of many. The 55 Ginetta, still recovering from that off earlier on. They are now into 17th place overall, which equates to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th now in GT4, so the position gained. There is John Minshaw, the race leader, lapping consistently in the sort of mid to high 31s, yeah, 31.9 that time around. What is the gap to Mark Farmer? It was less than 8 seconds a lap ago. It's now just over 6.5 seconds, because a 31.1 is 8/10 quicker for the 2nd place man. There was traffic again involved there that was definitely holding up the Lamborghini. They've just put a lap, in fact, on the GTC specification Ferrari, but good to have, nonetheless, a Ferrari back on the grid in British GT. And all of that lapped traffic, of course, now has to be dealt with by this man, Mark Farmer, in 2nd position, who in turn is 12.25 seconds clear, though, of Sam DeHaan in 3rd place. Farmer doing a good job here, and still could, if they win the race, win the championship. Basically, the plan is fairly simple for 33 and 11. They have to win the race to win the championship, regardless of where the 75 Aston Martin ends up. So that adds extra importance then onto this potential Keane and Team battle we're going to see later on.
Well, David, it's the same plan every car has at the beginning of every race, isn't it? Win the race and see what else happens afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. the Stella GT4 car looks in prime position to take the GT4 lead as well. I think after the pit stops, with pit stop penalties and whatnot, Richard Williams has put in a solid first stint, and centre fielding is going to be itching to go. They've had a little bit of an up and down year, so they're looking to end on a high.
Yeah, they're 6th in GT4, 1st in GT4 Pro Am, because the 4 cars in front of them are all silver-rated drivers. Drivers have a rating, David, don't they, based on their previous experience, previous performances, bronze, silver, gold, platinum. And so if you have a Pro Am rating, then you have to have at least one bronze driver in the car. But the 4 cars in the lead of the GT4 class are all silver drivers, so a kind of semi-pro, if you like.
How do you go about changing your driver grade? Because that's a question I get off quite a lot, asked quite a lot. How do they decide?
Get old,
you're
or go quicker?
Yes, exactly.
If you want to go up, if you go quicker, you go up the ladder. If you get old, you come down the snake.
Yes. Who do you have to impress, though? Who do you have to prove that you're getting quicker too, so they give you a higher grade?
All the driver grading is done by the FIA, so there's a criteria that you must meet, and then you're graded on that. And as Martin said, results normally and experience normally determine whether you go up or down or not.
And age, and actually a lot of professional drivers would be quite happy not to get upgraded sometimes. Into the pits early on comes 99, that's Andrew Howard. Who else is in? Lee Mole is in to hand over to Elmer Berman. J.M. Lippman is in for RJN. Mark Patterson, and 66 is in as well to hand over to Scott Malvern. In comes Nick Jones, at least a Pro Am championship in GT4. Is John Mitchell coming in? This time he is to hand over to Phil Keane. They've obviously gone, yeah, okay, it's quite quiet. Come in. Because actually he's the leader of the race, so he'll be the first of the real front runners to come in. Now, who will follow him in? Will Mark Farmer follow him in?
Yep.
Yes, he does. And 7 seconds was the gap. 7 seconds from what was nearly 15 when they were released behind the safety car. It's a great stint from Mark Farmer to hand over to Niki Team. Now, the Aston Martin will leave more than 7 seconds behind. In comes Sam de Haan's gone by, Rick Parfitt's gone by. In comes Flick Haig, Andrew Howard's in, Lee Mould is in, we said that already. GT4 leader goes by, Ben Green is in to hand over to Ben Tuck, Michael O'Brien is in the number 4 McLaren, so 2nd and 3rd in GT4 are in as well. So job done for Flick Haig. Now comes the tricky bit, David. It's bad enough waiting to see if your car comes in at the end of the first driver's stint, but then when you've done the first hour or the first half hour in the shorter races and you hand it over, then you really are powerless because you've done all you can do.
Yes. Well, to be fair, if I was in Flick's shoes, if I wanted anyone as my teammate, Johnny Adams the man. So
not
she's
shabby.
in safe hands, to say the least.
Yes, not shabby. But, you know, that pit stop penalty, you've got to take the wins or you don't get the points, but you do pay the penalty afterwards in the next race. You just got to hope that it doesn't all catch up with you too much. But what about the Lamborghini? John Minshaw and Phil Keane racing together and against each other very successfully in the Goodwood Revival a couple of weeks ago in all sorts of different historic cars. So they do a lot of racing aside from British GT together. Now, are they going to end up with a British GT Championship title? There goes the Lamborghini. And Mark Farmer's car will leave 17 seconds behind. And in fact, you can see there he's come out behind Sam de Haan and in front of Rick Parfitt, who stayed out. So you lose a full lap and more for the pit stop. Plus then this car needs to add another 20 seconds. Mark Farmer's car needs to add another 10 seconds. And when he comes in, Sam de Haan, the current race leader, will need to add another 15 seconds.
So the question is, once everyone else has pitted, and really it's just Sam de Haan and Rick Parfitt that we're waiting for now to make their pit stops, where is this car? If they're inside the top 6, they're still provisional champions. If they're not, Johnny Adam has to overtake cars to get themselves into a position to take the title. They've been joined just behind the Beach Team car, which has...
That's already stopped, hasn't it? So it's Darren Turner. Yelmer Berman's at the wheel of his car. Graham Davidson is in 47 to hand over to Maxime Martin. Derek Johnson came in. I beg your pardon, no, that's 101. So that's Graham Johnson came in 101, not Derek Johnston. So Johnston came in 17, didn't he, to hand over to Marco. Oh no, he didn't. He retired, so Marco Sorensen doesn't get to drive. So Rick Parfitt in the Bentley, car number 0.75, probably rather than car number 1, because there's bits missing off the front of it. And out goes the 42 BMW.
Yep, they rejoin having led early on in GT4, no longer. In now comes Rick Parfitt. Sam DeHaan, I think, yes, he's in as well. So they are the two remaining pieces of the puzzle. So in about a lap's time, we'll see where they come out of the pit lane. Yes.
Somebody's left fluid on the pit apron. A lot of fluid, and I wonder if that's spilled fuel or not. Sam DeHaan is in, and he hands over the number 69 Barwell Lamborghini. Once fueling has finished, another former British GT champion, Johnny Cocker, takes over there. In comes Dean McDonald to hand over to Jack Mitchell. The GT4 points leader stands with the team waiting to go at Century Motorsport. And again, drivers out, door closed, seat inserts removed while fueling is going on. And then everybody back behind the white line. Fuel only allowed at that stage. Now, GT4 cars are allowed to change tyres, GT3 cars are not without serving an extra penalty. So there's 69 up in the air. They are changing tyres on the Barwell Lamborghini, so that will cost them more time.
Yeah, that's interesting, that. I didn't necessarily expect to see a stick of tyres.
Yeah, stick of tyres,
new tyres.
Well, they are going to give Johnny Cocker, they're going to send him out fully armed and loaded for bear, aren't they?
Here's Johnny Adam up through Coppice.
Behind Darren Turner still.
Yes, and is Jelmer Berman closing? Well, the gap is much the same as it was. That could prove crucial, though, if Jelmer Berman's able to come through later on. There is the other Lamborghini of no longer Sam DeHaan, now Johnny Cocker, waiting to leave.
And where are they going to come out in front of this queue? I think they are going to be still in front of this queue with Darren Turner in 99, Johnny Adam in 75. Jelmer Berman behind in the Mercedes is already up to speed. His first flying lap, 1:29.5, the fastest for the car. You would sort of expect that, having taken over from the gentleman driver, Lee Mole. The Pro goes in, and out comes Johnny Cocker just in front of car number 1, the Bentley of Ryan Ratcliffe, and he comes out in front also of Darren Turner. So all these cars now have stopped. Scott Morgan in 66, he took over from Nick Jones, the car that leads the Pro Am class in the GT4 category. Another Parker Motorsport car.
So yes, I think that as we stand, Johnny Adam is about 5th-ish, so it's not yet quite sorted itself out on the timing screen. It's squeaky bum time, isn't it, really? Because whilst he may not have to gain any ground, he can't afford to lose any ground, and he's got some very quick drivers coming behind.
Right now, the outright race leader is Struan Moore, who's taken over from Chris Buncombe in the Nissan. Except it's not now, it's Ian Loggy who is yet to stop and hand over the number 7 Bentley to Callum McLeod.
Yeah, interesting strategy there. They're leaving the AM driver out quite a long time, aren't they, in that Bentley?
So Ian Loggy, being a Scot and paying the bills, is obviously deciding to get the full 70 minutes worth out of this.
Yes, that's probably very true. So once we take him out of the equation, Phil Keane will lead the race, Niki Team will be 2nd, Johnny Cocker will be 3rd, I think, will be in some way back.
I think so, as it was, and then Ryan Ratcliffe in the Bentley, I think possibly has lost a couple of spots, because didn't they come out, oh no, they come out right behind right behind Johnny Cocker, so they'll still be in front of Darren Turner and Johnny Adam. Yes,
side by side for Turner and Cocker. But yes, that crucially, that was a good move,
pass by Darren Turner.
Very good pass around the outside and in traffic. But that crucially, I think, makes Johnny Adam the 7th highest placed, the 6th highest placed car in the race that's not yet stopped. So they're on the bubble. One more lost position, and they may not be champions. So that 175 Aston Martin, to make absolutely sure of this.
They have stopped though.
That's what I mean. Yes, that has stopped. There are 2 cars in front of them that haven't yet, so they should leapfrog up into 6th position. If they lose ground, and Jelmer Berman is only 1.7 seconds behind them, that may not be enough for the title.
Right, now, here's a theory for you. Johnny Adam is in, let's say, 6th with Darren Turner, who's not got... Oh, who's gone off?
GT4.
It's a GT4 Aston, 61 again.
Yes.
So each of the drivers have had a little rally cross in the 61 Aston. That's Yuan Yonk. Tom Wood went off earlier. 88 drive-through penalty for track limits, and that is the Team Hard Ginetta of Graham Roberts and Ben Wallace. So Ben Wallace will pay the price, I'm sure, for somebody else's miscreancy.
Johnny Adam on the inside of Darren Turner gains a position. That was significant. Johnny Adam's on a real tear here.
Well, I was going to suggest before I got distracted that if Johnny Adam needed a spot and he had Darren Turner in an Aston Martin factory teammate, not with a dog in the championship fight, that was a given, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's like the 33 Barwell Lambo being stuck behind 69 on the last lap. Suddenly he's going to be unstuck, isn't he?
Ooh, this one's not going to be quite so easy though. Ryan Ratcliffe not keen to hand over this position in the Bentley, and why should he? Because he's not a teammate. He's not even running in the same manufacturer of car. He's out for one of actually their best finishes of the season. This would be if they could hang on. But he doesn't appear to be quite as quick, or possibly quite as fired up, as Johnny Adam is behind. The Invictus Games Jaguar squirrels its way wide through the old hairpin, allows them through. Johnny Adam, though, again, a bit like we saw Flick Hagan in the first half of the race, stuck behind the slower Sam Dehaan. Johnny could do with getting out of this mess, couldn't he?
Ian Loggie's just stopped, by the way, so this is no longer the battle for 5th, it's now the battle for 3rd, because also stopping in the number 70 car, where the order is John Seal. He hands over to Marcus Clutton in that 488 Challenge Ferrari, and Johnny Adam looking to send it down the inside of Ryan Ratcliffe. So he doesn't manage to get by, but got by Johnny Cocker and Darren Turner. All right, Darren Turner was an easy pass, but Johnny Cocker is never an easy pass. Another Nissan gets out of the way. The 53 RGN car was on the outside at the Melbourne hairpin last lap, so that'll make that the 54 car. And again, they go by the other Invictus Jag.
Where do you go though? There's traffic to the left, traffic to the right, and cars all fighting for position, just like we saw at the start of the race. About 5 of them in GT3, absolutely together as they flash through.
Sudden huge change, you're not seeing it, but on our timing screen, huge change in the GT4 Championship battle. Car number 42 has a 10-second stop and go penalty. They are 2nd in the championship, Ben Green and Ben Tuck, and that is going to have a massive effect because 10 seconds stationary plus 25 odd seconds coming through the pit lane, that's going to cost them half a minute. And where were they in GT4? Well, actually, they dropped down the order to 5th place because they have a success penalty. 15 seconds to drop them down the order. So a stop and go penalty for this car, for Ben Green and Ben Tuck. And is that a pit stop infringement? And right behind is 43. The championship leader, Jack Mitchell, will see his closest rivals pulling into the pit lane, but he won't even need to see because the team will be telling him 42 have a penalty and telling him what the gap is to any other rivals in the championship.
55 Ginetta Martin, that was also in contention for this title, has just pitted from the class lead. So where do they come out in relation to 43? We expected it to be close.
What do you mean they've just pitted? When did they pit?
Ah, that's interesting.
The pit window was closed with 50 minutes to go. They can't have been in there for 3.5 minutes. You're right, it says in pit. Have they missed the pit window with 55? Last year's champion team, HHC Motorsport, that can't be right.
You'd find it hard to believe, wouldn't you? But strange things have happened.
No, absolutely. Well, that is their 2nd stop.
Yeah, they made a stop earlier, I seem to remember, after an off, didn't they?
Yes,
and off in the first lap. There they are, they're in the pit
right.
lane. So there's a drama possibly here as well. They're maybe just double checking the damage from that first lap off that they had.
Well, there's more to it than that. There is more to it than that. This is a driver change as well. If it's still Patrick Mathiasen in the car, then that's a major, major error.
Yes, pass.
That is a huge, huge error.
Not sure on that one. There is Patrick.
That's the Danish colours on the helmet. It can't be anybody else.
They don't seem overly concerned, it must be said, or they're concerned about the damage, not particularly looking like they're...
Well, hang a minute, what was his last lap time? 1 minute 30.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
1:38-ish.
No, he can't have had an off, not only lost 2 seconds. I was wondering if he had an issue and came crawling in. Meanwhile, here's the battle. Johnny Adam versus Ryan Ratcliffe for 3rd. Ratcliffe goes in very deep, David. Here's an opportunity for Johnny.
I remember, is it Spa, that Ryan drove a very good defensive race, and I think he's trying to emulate that performance at the moment. Hung him right out to drive. Can Johnny get the traction? Not quite. Door slammed firmly in his face.
And of course, the last thing Johnny wants to do here is take an unnecessary risk racing against a car that can't beat him to the championship when he's already in a position to win the championship anyway. So really, you know, in any other circumstance, he might have hung on the outside there and tried to get the inside for Redgate, but that was never really the game plan, I feel.
Right, Patrick Mathiasson not looking exactly jubilant, is he?
No.
Not sure what the story is there. Contact between 17 and 1 will be investigated after the race. 17, Derek Johnson, that's a long time ago. Do they mean 17?
Well, that was, remember, it was Parfit, wasn't it, that headbutted him and caused the issue down at the bottom of the hill.
That was 40 minutes ago.
There's been a lot going on, Martin.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. It's taken them 40 minutes to notice that there was contact 40 minutes ago and then say we haven't got time to examine it in this 45 minutes. They obviously want onboard video and data and stuff from the drivers, but
they've been busy, of course, handing out umpteen different track warnings.
Right, well, let's get down
to
the pit lane. Andy J is with HHC Motorsports, Patrick Mathiasson.
Patrick, you've come in now and you look shaken, if you don't mind me saying. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I just pushed the car really hard. Unfortunately, on the start, there was someone in the front of the spun, so I had to go on the grass. And after a couple of laps, I could see the engine was just running too high on the temperature, so we had to go straight in, cover some grass out of the car, and then go out again.
Did you make it in the pit window, or had the pit closed when you guys changed?
Well, yeah, I make it, yeah. We have some few issues when he came in, but easy, yeah.
So you guys, you did change within the right time?
Yeah, we did, yeah, definitely.
Well done, thank you.
Yeah.
Side by side here as Johnny Adam takes some real risks trying to get past Ryan Ratcliffe. There's a back marker in the way as well, and Ryan Ratcliffe having none of it. There was a gap, he was going for it, and he was not letting Johnny Adam through.
Well, Ryan Ratcliffe, let's not forget, is a British GT champion as well. 3 years ago, he won the GT4 title as a partner to Rick Parfitt. Then, of course, Rick went with Seb Morris last year and won the overall championship title in GT3. So Rick Parfitt, one of very few drivers to win a GT4 and a GT3 title. In fact, was he not the first?
Yeah.
Yes. So Ryan Ratcliffe, he's used to arms and elbows. GT4 is no more gentlemanly than GT3 when it comes to using track room and the driving standards are good, but it is pretty frantic racing. It's not just leisurely follow my leader. So he keeps his arms out, his elbows out. He's still third, Johnny Adam fourth. Darren Turner fifth, Yelmer Berman's Mercedes in sixth, then Johnny Cocker in that Lamborghini ahead of Struan Moore in the Nissan. So 47, Maxime Martin, the Aston Martin, still trying to unlap itself from the rest of the GT3 field, and you sort of need 24 hours to do that rather than 2. That's a long and difficult task, I'm afraid, for them.
The number 4 McLaren, by the way, that was right in the middle of that being lapped was the car that is second in GT4, Charlie Fagg even, at the wheel of car number 4. Car number 10, the other McLaren, leading the way at the moment in that class. That is Finley Hutchison now on board. Second place in GT4 was the number 4 McLaren restored Charlie Fagg. And in third place now, David called it earlier on, the 86 Toyota with Senan Fielding now on board. Yep. You said, David, that car was set to jump up the order they have. They're now into a provisional, at least, podium place.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, be good to see them up there. Yeah, I'd say up and down here, so it'd be good to end on a high.
Yeah, they are third place overall, and they're also first of the Pro Am cars in GT4. Fourth place at the moment is Jack Mitchell in the number 43 BMW. His teammates, number 42, have served their drive-through penalty. Well, let's get down to Team Parker Racing. Ryan Ratcliffe keeping his elbows out, defending a podium finish. Is this really Rick Parfitt's last race?
Well, let's find out, shall we, Rick? There's some... I could hear some sadness in Martin's voice then when he just asked me, is this really your last race? If it is, quite a dramatic way to finish your time in the Bentley and British GT.
Yeah, coming onto the grid, I was... it was emotional. You know, it's been 7 years of pushing to try and get the results. And so, for me, you know, I've achieved, you know, the first person to win both GT4 and GT3 titles. You know, it was. I feel like I need a bit of time off. It's been. Oh no, what's going on?
I need you to check the screen, Rick.
Okay.
Seems to be every time we're chatting.
We're okay. Can you not do this to me again?
Right.
You did this to me at Brands.
Yeah, I did.
Don't do this to me again.
But there was reason. What happened with your car? There was a bit of a dust up with Derek by the looks of things.
Well, yeah, Derek. Bless him. He is my neighbour. I just think he enjoyed hitting everything. He hit every single car he tried to overtake. And then each time I came alongside, he drove into me. It was amazing. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Anyway, so I just thought I'd bide my time. He started to get involved. He sent it down the inside of a flick and then had nowhere to go. He slammed the brakes and I was right behind him. I had absolutely nowhere to go. So I just nudged him very slightly, but everyone was just bustling and bustling and bustling. They're all, leaning on each other. I managed to get a little bit of a better drive and then got my head down and left them, and it was great. I was consistently sort of right up there. But you know what? Let's just focus on the fun stuff. So that was fun. It was complete knuckle dusting racing. If honest, probably a bit too much contact, I would say.
Well, listen, I've got one question for you because we've got to get back to the action.
Yeah.
Are we going to see you back in British GT anytime soon?
Let's say it's a sabbatical. I'd love to be back. I love this series. I love the fans. Thank you, everyone. Let's see what happens, but I need a year off. So come see my band or something. Anyway,
there you go.
Good luck.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
Brilliant.
I've spent most of my life following his dad's band. Yet to see Rick play live himself,
Yeah,
so
same.
that's definitely on the list. But right now, Ryan Ratcliffe doing a fantastic job. And yes, Andy J. I know I have a reputation of being something at the jinx. Sorry, Sam Bird. Andy J. You only need to send him down to Rick's garage to. So Rick Parfitt. Oh, there goes your car in the gravel. Oh, Rick Parfitt, there's your car. It's on fire. Rick, you need to check your car. Is that your car? Honestly, I've never seen so much of a jinx. Poor Rick Parfitt. They need to roll the shutters down and keep Andy J out at all costs. However, Ryan Ratcliffe doing a great job. It might have been a little physical early on. Certainly from the commentary seat, we didn't necessarily see all of that. But great battle on for third place. So let's reset our championship battles then. Phil Keane leads by 9 seconds from Niki Team, and again that gap coming down. Niki Team fastest man on track last time round, and also with the fastest race lap, 6/10 quicker than the Lamborghini's been able to go at any stage. Ryan Ratcliffe lies third, inches ahead of Johnny Adam. So in terms of championship points, the 75 Aston Martin is where it needs to be. 25 has a drive-through penalty for track limits. Who's 25? Is that a GT4 car? That's a Sicily Motorsport car of David Fairbrother and Abden Morgan. That's just what they need after being in the barriers on the opening lap, isn't it? That's insult to injury. All sorts of track limits penalties being thrown out. In GT4, where are we with the championship? Leading GT4, the number 10 McLaren. Second, Charlie Fagin, number 4 McLaren. Third is the Toyota GT86, but fourth, Jack Mitchell. I think that is enough, isn't it, with the 42 car down the order and the 55 car even further down the order. Basically, whoever finishes in front sort of finishes in front in that one, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we worked it out, as again Ryan Ratcliffe fends off another challenge from Johnny Adam. Whilst we were hearing there from Rick down in the garage, myself and David were frantically trying to do the maths, because David quite rightly spotted that the number 4 Donington Motorsport McLaren is now in second place in GT4.
Yeah.
If they were to win the race, they could theoretically have still taken the championship. They would have needed car number 43 to finish 6th though. At the moment, neither of those things are true. Tolman are not leading, they're second, and Century Motorsport are in fourth.
Again, we're still the better part of 40 minutes away from the checkered flag, so it's definitely possible. Anything can happen. We've seen that so many times. And again, John Minshaw and Phil Keane, look, they qualified on pole, a Lamborghini 1-2. They've run at the front every single lap of the race, a race they needed to win, but there just hasn't been enough going on behind them. They couldn't have done any more. It's their third pole of the year. They're heading to what will be their third win of the year, and yet still it would seem that the Donington jinx, the British GT jinx, is going to stay alive for John Minshaw and Phil Keane.
And this, of course, it all revolves around the idea that they win the race. That is now itself looking less and less likely, because Niki Team is continuing to take time out of them. Under 8 seconds now. He's nearly taken 10 seconds out of Phil Keane, of all people, since the pit stops. Here comes Johnny Adam on the inside. My word, that was close. Ryan Ratcliffe, I'm getting the impression he doesn't really want to give up this third place, does he?
You think?
I'm getting that impression.
All right, so we need to do more maths then surrounding the TF Sport Aston Martin, the number 11 car, because they are definite championship contenders. 28.5 points behind. If they win, then 75 needs to be lower than 7th or 7th, because then 11 would have won a 3rd race compared to 2 for Flick and Johnny.
So it's 6th place they need, basically, to guarantee it.
Yeah, so top 6 for the number 75 car. And again, if nothing else happens, as it stands, Flick Haig, Johnny Adam will win by 8 points from John Minshaw. But that's as it stands, if nothing else happens.
Yeah.
If no debris comes your way, if you don't get caught up in somebody else's incident. I mean, the way Ryan Ratcliffe cut from the inside to the outside to go around the back marker in Redgate a couple of laps ago, that's the sort of place where mistakes happen.
Yeah, realistically, it is one slight grassy moment, because one slight grassy moment is going to cost you 5 places, because look at them, they're all back together again. If you take the 47 Aston Martin out of the equation because they're a lap down, all of the other GT3 cars you see they're off on position, and here comes
There's
one of them
the
now.
fire in the ointment.
Oh,
Yellow Berman around the outside in the Mercedes. Nothing to lose and everything to gain. They've not had a win this season. They've barely been on the podium with that car, and yet Jelmer Berman, with his tail up, is now charging at 3rd place Ryan Ratcliffe.
Yes, and one more position lost for the 75 car, and they're right on the bubble again. The good news is the next car behind them is Darren Turner, who's not an unfriendly rival to have out there.
However, right behind them is Johnny Cocker in 69,
Yes.
and if there are any tyres left on the Lamborghini, exactly right. Look, Jelmer Berman sends it down through the old hairpin. Fantastic. You know, all these guys, Jelmer Berman, who's come into the championship this year, all the Aston Martin drivers, with the exception of Johnny Adam, you know, they're all coming new to these tracks. And there is Johnny Adam ahead of Ryan Ratcliffe. So the door being levered open by somebody else has worked in his favour. Is the Bentley starting to run out of tyre? Jelmer Berman, what a lunge that was, you know. That's a fantastic move. But
I love when the foreign drivers come to these circuits, because they don't know the rules of where you can and can't overtake. They make it up as they go along.
and they are loving it. You know, they go, oh, these places are fantastic. And for, you know, drivers that grew up in Scandinavia or, you know, wherever in Europe, you know, there are certain tracks that we all know, you know, Spa and Monza and all these places. You go, oh, I'd love to race there, because you know about it, because you've seen races there on the telly. Well, it's the same with these places, same with Brands and Donington. What a great pass. But that was classic old hairpin stuff. Send it down through the Craner curves.
There was, Berman gave Ratcliffe one choice, and that was to leave the door open.
I'm coming through, and this is where I'm coming through.
Crucially, that's now released Adam as well, so Adam's no longer stuck behind the Bentley. He, in theory now, should be out of harm's reach. Well, I've said it now, of course, which is the last thing I should have said, but he is now in a fairly clear 4th place. Ratcliffe now desperately trying to hang on to a top 5, but the next Aston Martin behind him, the white and orange one, is a lap down, so he can afford to let that car through. It's not for position. However, it's a handy little buffer at the moment between himself and Darren Turner, and then Johnny Cocker, and then Stuart Moore, who are all right in behind. So Johnny Adam then breaking free finally. Ironically, just as he lost the position, he then gained the position he really needed to gain the most, which was to get past the Bentley and start to scoot off into the distance. Someone who's not scooting off into the distance, though, is Phil Keane, the race leader. The lead gap is now only just 5 seconds, 5.4 seconds between the 2 overall race leaders. Here's the GT4 race leader, that's car number 10, that's still Finley Hutchison. He enjoys a slightly more comfortable margin, 15 seconds he is in front of anybody else in GT4.
2 race leaders nose to tail there. You've got the GT4 leader in the McLaren, you've got the green and red of our GT3 leader, who squeezes through between that car and the Team Parker Mercedes. And that's why Phil Keane is so highly rated by John Minshaw, because, you know, he knows where those gaps are going to open up. You've got that feeling for it, he's got that instinct for it. Boy, he can really, really pedal. He's got a factory-paid Aston Martin professional behind him, and the gap is barely shifting at all between the two of them. And bearing in mind that Phil Keane meets the traffic first and again has to reopen all those doors, Niki Team has had a couple of laps where he's had clear track. Now he catches the GT4 leader. He's got to go by him and the Mercedes.
Unsure to why the 89 Mercedes is defending.
Yeah, I think he got back on his hands, isn't it? In fact, that's the Pro Technica car.
There,
I thought that was a Team Parker car, but that's Anna Valeska's car.
Get some blue flags out there.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it's difficult sometimes as a marshal to know what's for position and what isn't. I think finally the messages have got across though, and through does go
Well,
McLaren.
I bet Anna Valeska was on the radio going to Tom Canning, "What are you doing? Get out of the way!" It's her programme, it's her money, it's her car. She's it's not, don't fight him!
Yes. Where are they running at the moment? They're down in...
well, they are in 6th in Pro Am in GT4,
so a decent result on the
yes,
cards.
exactly, a good, healthy result.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Lead gap under 4 seconds now. The team train is coming, definitely, isn't it? He's lapping consistently quicker.
Yeah.
He took another second and a half. No, sorry. Yes, second and a half. I didn't believe that at first.
1.528.
Yeah, out of Phil Keane. Now, you know that you're dealing with someone special and you're taking that sort of amount of time out of Phil Keane, who is widely renowned as one of the top pro drivers in the UK. And the Niki Team is coming. Darren Turner's in the pit lane.
Yes, interesting.
What's happened there for the Beach Dean car, the 99 machine, dropping down the order, but what's the problem? Their Donington curve striking again, it seems, because they were still in contention despite their dramas earlier on for maybe a podium finish.
I bet you know. I bet you'll know what it was. I bet Andy went in for an ice cream. Meanwhile, actually, I now know that can't be true because he's down with Flick Haig.
I'm feeling the love, Martin. I don't know what I've done to upset you today, but the jinx jokes have got to stop. Flick, how are you feeling? I mean, that was a crazy stint, wasn't it? You got caught in traffic, there was a safety car, but you managed to keep your head.
Yeah, it was tricky. I think, you know, everyone's desperate to win this race, and I'm desperate to win the championship, so my mindset's more on looking after the car. And when, you know, the Lamborghini backed us all up and we're all trying to jostle, and I was just trying to just keep out of trouble and just not let it bother me too much. But it's frustrating when you know you've got the pace, but you're not prepared to put the car in that situation. So I've never been in that situation before, but I just wanted to bring the car back so, you know, we had a shot at the championship. So I'm hoping that Johnny can keep pushing and bring it home.
I mean, there were a couple of moments where you did well to keep it on the track.
Yeah, there's a lot of contact today. Normally I'm not really around it. I haven't experienced it so much in this championship, but you know, I got hit 3 or 4 times, and I certainly hadn't put my car in a situation where that should have happened. So it's frustrating, but fortunately it was just cosmetic stuff. The car's fine, it's going well. So
Smashed windscreen, was that a bother?
yeah, it's quite annoying, yeah. So for the right-hand corners, it's tricky, but that's debris off, you know, contact in front of me that, you know, I couldn't do anything about. So frustrating, but the car came back in one piece, that's all that matters. So
Exactly, and you've done your bit, it's over to Johnny.
Exactly that.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Flick. Cheers.
Well, David Pittard, that's you know, what I was thinking all the way through the first stint. Although she knows she's losing time, she's like the quarterback. If she doesn't get the pass away, then her wide receiver, Johnny Adam, isn't going to catch the pass, isn't going to stand a chance of making a touchdown. So she has got to get the car to the pit lane in one piece. That's her only job.
Very, very good analysis of the stint, really. Everyone backed up behind Sam Dehaan. In those situations, it's so easy for fireworks to just to go off and her get caught out, whether it's her fault or not, for example. So yeah, very mature, intelligent drive there, thinking of the big picture, and yeah, we're looking good at the moment.
Yeah, patience is so underrated as a driver's friend, isn't it? You've got to know when to make the move as well as how to make the move. Niki Team closing in on Phil Keane. He's got under half an hour to go, but he is within 2 seconds of the Lamborghini. And again, as a racing driver, David, every corner you come out of, you can see you're just a little closer. You don't even need the pit board, you don't need the radio, you don't need the fans with the team Dane Train flags. You know you're getting closer and closer and closer, and that makes the car go quicker somehow.
Yeah, it's once you get into that site where on a straight you can see them, and you just almost plot points where where's the car when I come into view, where's the car when I come into view, and then when you see it coming closer to you, there's nothing more inspiring that it just fires you up even more.
Well, there's the 61 Aston that has been part racer, part rallycrosser throughout the course of the day. And that car with Jan Jonk at the wheel, 7 laps behind the lead. It's a lap off the GT4, in fact 2 laps off the GT4 lead, a lap behind the nearest car in GT4. No, it's not, in fact it's a lap ahead of Matty George in 44. So Jan Jonk with 23 seconds to try and catch Jordan Albert in the nearest car in front of him. But if your teammate goes off, that makes life a little tricky. Now, Mark Farm did a really strong opening stint as well in this car, didn't he? And handed over to Niki Team, and Team fired up and ready to try and end his first ever British Championship season with another win.
When is Niki Team fired up? That's really the more pertinent question, isn't it? He's now only 1.3 seconds behind Phil Keane, and Niki, who has, for some reason, I can't figure out why, become rather a popular driver in the British GT Championship. In the social media activity around any given British GT race weekend, the vast majority of the conversation is his hordes of fans, his ever-growing fan club, getting ever more excited as the race day gets closer and closer, and then when the race actually gets underway, they are really very vocal in their support for him, and you can see why. He's a very exciting driver to watch, is Niki Team. He never gives in. He's always looking for that next position, whether that next position happens to be first or 21st. He's always looking for that position. He's always attacking, and that is the kind of driver that people really do relate to. Well, number 11 the car is in second place. It's now only half a second off the race lead, and down in the pit lane with the man who started that car, a rather nervous Mark Farmer, I'd imagine, is Andy J.
Yeah, Mark, you just said to me off air, it's quite a race, isn't it?
It most certainly is, yeah. Yeah, who would have thought? I mean, there's a three-way scrap for the championship. Johnny and Flick, obviously, well favourites. And we just knew that we just got to go out and win the race. And oh my goodness, they're so close. I mean, you know, I knew what I had to do. I had to put my head down and get back from fifth, and it was going to be a tough job because they're all quick people, you know. But we just and now, oh my goodness, it's Niki and Phil are just on each other. I mean, Niki's closed down a 15-second gap. Oh my goodness. I mean, you know, if we can win the race, I mean, we've done as much as we can, right?
You're loving this, aren't you?
I tell you, this is, it's going to do it. You're going to get into the hairpin. Oh, my goodness. Oh, don't do it. Oh,
that was close.
That was close. Yeah, I love the race. The race was epic. I think it was probably the best race of the season so far.
Brilliant. Look, I'm going to let you get back to it because Martin Heyman wants a job. All right, thank you.
I was going to say, I think we found what Mark Farmer's calling is, haven't we? That was fantastic. We really are surplus to requirements when Mark's around. Fantastic live reaction from the garage, and it's so good to see someone so genuinely enjoying themselves, isn't it?
But look, David, you know, everybody gets into this because they love motor racing, and you know, it's so edge of the seat so often here, isn't it? And again, you know, you've done your job, you're on the pit wall. What do you mean? Come on! You're just trying to will him forward, aren't you? Somehow.
I can imagine Mark is going crazy right now. Yeah, he's got the undercut. There you go.
You were right. Fantastic stuff. And Niki Team, that was sort of coming, wasn't it? But my word, he got the heart rate rising as he was doing it. Niki Team has gone through. Phil Keane loses the lead, but even the Barwell mechanics appreciating, I think, the battle that their driver was involved in.
Yeah. You know, win, lose or draw, you want to be in a good race, don't you? You know, but being second in a really dull procession or being first in a really dull procession, in the end, it's pretty much the same. First or second in a massive race like this, you get out at the end just wreathed in smiles. If the guy behind hasn't had you off going by, you know, it's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about driving the wheels off the car and going head-to-head with somebody to try and work out a way of beating a slower car or beating a faster car sometimes.
In GT4, by the way, some news of Pro Am significance. The second-placed Pro Am car has been given a 10-second stop-go penalty. That's the number 56 car. That's the Tolman Motorsport, the second of the Tolman Motorsport McLarens. And that car, stop-go penalty for a pit lane infringement. And there are yellow flags on the pit straight, which is always concerning. Why is that? Is there a car stopped somewhere down towards the red gate? Can't see from this angle.
And also a drive-through for car 88, which is the Team Hard Genetic Graham Watson.
10-second stop-go penalty.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's the GT4 championship leader.
Wow, so that's a pit lane infringement, which means they left the pits too early, so that turns around the stop and go for their teammates as well. So both of the Century Motorsport BMWs have had drive-through penalties. Crikey, just as we were starting to tie up GT3, GT4 is coming unravelled like a ball of string in a gale.
We said before that the number 4 McLaren, if they won, needed the 43 BMW to be 6th or lower. Now, at the moment, number 4 is only in second place in class, which means that they won't score 37.5 points, they'll score 22.5 points. So the question is, how far down do they need that BMW to fall?
43, if it loses 30 seconds, drops about 8 places. And it's got a 10-second stop and go, plus driving through the pit lane, which has got to be 25 seconds, so it'll be 35 seconds or so. So that, now they have to serve it immediately. Do it as soon as you know about it. Don't even do one more lap. Come in and do your stop and go, because every lap you stay out there is a lap you can't recover from later. Now they're behind the 86 Toyota, so Jack Mitchell looking at the car that's third on the road. But again, as with Flick Haig, it is not about who's in front of you on the road, it's about who's in front of you in the points, and our calculator says, Carol?
8th position is what the 43 car would need if the 4 car stays in 2nd position, which it should, because it's 16 seconds off the lead and 12 seconds ahead of 3rd place. So.
Right, get back to your calculator. What happens when number 4 wins?
Well, in that case, it was 6th. 6th is what they needed, but that would take issues for the number 10 car, I think, for that to happen. Do we need to factor anyone else into this? The 62 Aston Martin is
Rally Crossing.
No, 61's been off several times.
Yeah, 62 likewise is off at the moment,
yeah.
We're being told, so they're not in it, so we can sort of cross them out of the list. 55 are currently 18th overall, which is 6th in GT4, is it?
Yeah, 6th now, because there's only 12 GT3 cars running on there.
They were 13 and a half off the...
Mitchell and Osborne are both ahead of Poynton, so Poynton's going to jump 2, so I'm going to put 4.
Yeah, at least.
Yes, that's true. So 4th place for them. Hang on, calculator back out again, bear with me.
Crikey. All right, well, let's just talk about some racing. Here we go. Thank you very much for that. Ryan Ratcliffe in 5th position with the number 47 car of Maxime Martin, who's 11, so basically a lap down, and in fact he is ahead of all the GT4 cars, but only just. Maxime Martin trying to unlap himself. Here comes Jack Mitchell. Now, is this the end of the championship for Jack? That's one of the Nissans in the pit lane as well. That's 43, 53, 54, not sure, 54 in the pit lane, I think. Just heading back out. Jack Mitchell does his 10-second stop and go. But Century Motorsport miscalculating on the pit stop time, or too many people working on the car, or something, or something, or something. Out goes Jack Mitchell, comes out behind Scott Malvern. Okay, and Malvern was 21st overall. Jack was 16th, so that has cost him 5 places. Goes from 16th to 21st. Okay, so now on the Century Motorsport pit wall, they'll probably have come to their conclusion rather quicker than we have. But Andy,
where? So I missed that because I was counting. Where did the 43 car come out in class? Do we reckon?
Behind Scott Malvern. So yeah,
9th, right? So they're only on for 3 points at the moment. So if they finished there, that would put them on to 121. Is that correct? Yes, it's
so that would leave them 3rd.
So I reckon, as things stand now, 55 might win the championship by half a point.
Wow. So what we're saying is 55, as of now, could be, according to our maths, on 122.5, the number 4 McLaren on 122, and the number 43 BMW on 121. So any place change involving 43, 55 or 4 has an absolute material effect on who wins the championship from here on in.
Does that mean they're in it?
42 are, that's a good point, I've forgotten about them. 42 are 5th at the moment. They're currently on 108 points.
No, hang on. They're 5th in Pro Am, but you're not counting the silver cars, because all the GT4s count. So 1, 2, 3, 42 are 4th, 43 are 5th. No, 43 are 6th,
going to drop
7th.
down, aren't they? I think they're going to drop even further because they're behind a few more, aren't we think? So, right, so 42 are, where did we say, 4th overall in GT, no, 5th overall.
No, they are,
6th overall.
2, yeah.
So that's 12 points, added to 108.
Crikey.
Is 120.
Right, I'll watch the racing. There's 3 of us here, we're all trying to do maths, and nobody's... at home, shout if anything happens, okay? Here is the car that lies 2nd in the race at the moment. This is Charlie Fagg in the number 4 Tolman Motorsport McLaren. And yeah, we properly need a mathematician. You know that nice man from the championship who said he'd pop in with all the... Yeah, so much for that then. So Charlie Fagg sharing with Michael O'Brien. Charlie Fagg just 18 years old from County Durham. Is he going to end up being one of the youngest British GT champions ever? Well, at the moment, with Johnny Adam in 4th place, Flick Haig looks like not just being the first female driver to set a British GT pole position, not just being the first British driver to win a GT race outright as a female, but also perhaps to be the first British GT champion female driver as well. But in GT4, the first ever British GT champion who was a female, Jamie Chadwick, won it when she was just 16 years old, a couple of seasons ago. And that is not going to be matched by Charlie Fagg, but 18 years old is not bad to be a national champion at the top level of motor racing. Here's our race leader then, Niki Team. 129.6 last time round, 129.8 for Phil Keane, but the gap is out to 2.4 seconds, so now Niki Team can pace himself just a fraction. Jelmer Berman is in 3rd, not in the Mercedes that was popping over the brow there, but in the Mercedes that's nearly a minute back. 51.8 seconds back from Phil Keane, and then 5 seconds behind him is Johnny Adam. Oh, the door opens behind us, as if by magic, the shopkeeper has appeared. We're going to quiz our championship coordinators on the GT4 points. So as that happens, just slightly off by David. When you're in the pit lane and stuff like this happens and suddenly there are penalties, the teams are all doing this as well. What do we need? How many more places? Because that Jack Mitchell, for instance, drive-through. Okay, calm down. When he goes back out of the pits, you better have the answer. Jack, you need 2 places or whatever it is. You need to know what the target is.
I think the target is go as fast as possibly can, qualifying laps and beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 10, 12 months worth of work and effort gone into putting them into this position, and to have all the balls thrown up in the air, he's just got to go absolutely the hardest he's ever driven.
Yeah. And the other slight advantage for Jack, which doesn't apply to any others, is that actually his teammate this weekend, Dean McDonald's only been in the car for a couple of races, so he's not carrying somebody else's hopes. It's just about him. So he's just got to, second place. All right, second place is lovely, but if you go off trying to win the championship, then perhaps, okay, it doesn't matter where you end up because you've given it everything that there was.
Right, we've had a notification with regards to points. We can see on the screen what it is in GT3. GT3 was never the question. That's the thing. It's GT4 that's complicated.
It's got very complicated, hasn't it?
Yes, as it stands at the moment, with car number 4 running in 2nd position, if they finished there, they would move on to 122.5 points. That would be a 1.5 clear of the 43 BMW, who are currently running down in 9th. If, however, they gain 1 more position and go into 8th place in class, they will take over the championship lead.
So Jack Mitchell, 1.7 seconds behind Scott Morvan. If he passes the Mercedes, could put himself back into the championship winner's seat. Wow, okay, well there's the target. Scott Morvan was the target anyway, but if he gets to Morvan in 13 minutes and get by him, there's another 10-second gap to his own teammate Ben Tuck, and that is not going to be a given. 13 minutes remain of the race, of the stint, of the season, of the championship here for the British GT Series, and the number 10 McLaren is still leading in the GT4 class. This is Danny McKay, who started it, Finley Hutchinson driving it now. They led early on, little mistake from McKay, and then came back into it, and they look like they're going to end up winning this. They're 16 seconds ahead of Charlie Fagg, whose only interest now is in somehow trying to win the championship. And we probably need Carol Vorden. We've got to pay her to come to next year, haven't we? Because we don't need to be doing this. We're struggling enough with, I'll have a consonant and a vowel, please.
Well, at the moment, the notification I've just been given is because the 43 car of Jack Mitchell's just gained a place, they are now in the position to take the championship. They would now move on to 124 points. However, the 42 BMW is right with the car in front of it, which is the 55 Ginetta. Ironically, another one of the championship contenders. If they get past the Ginetta, they will be the championship leaders. So each position is crucial. That really is the battle to watch, though. It's the battle between the blue and white 55 Genetic, which right, and there's the BMW in front. The BMW is in front now.
Wow.
Number 42 has gone through. As I've just been told, that now means they're in front in the championship.
Wow.
It's changing by the corner.
Well, Jack Mitchell needs to get by Scott Morvan, but it looks like the Mercedes is actually pulling away a little from the 43 BMW. So ironically, the Benz, Green and now Tuck in the 42 car, may just have made the pass that wins them the championship.
Significantly, that stop-go penalty that was going to be applied to the 56 car, which would have affected the championship battle, has been rescinded, so they no longer have to serve the penalty. So that was a position that a couple of these guys were hoping to gain, that they will now have to gain on the track, rather than by virtue of a pit stop penalty.
Now that's the flip side of going in immediately to serve a stop-go penalty, is to argue the stop-go penalty for 3 laps and to try and get it rescinded. That's the second penalty we've seen rescinded today. No, one was rescinded yesterday in one of the races that was held yesterday, not in British GT, but in another championship. A post-race penalty was then subsequently rescinded. Now, having one turned over during the race is quite something. So whatever they did at Tolman Motorsport with the 56 car, David Patterson, Joe Osborne, that's a pretty good job.
Lawyers.
Yeah, the team manager's done a good job there, saying, you're having a giraffe, ain't you, John? 42, here is Ben Tuck, who with Ben Green, again, may end up, possibly, in a little over 10 minutes, being a British GT champion. Ben Tuck, 21, Ben Green, just 20. From Waltham Abbey in Hertfordshire, Sandy, Bedfordshire for Ben Tuck.
1 point is all it is.
1 point in it, so 1 pass or 1 mistake. Flick Hagan, Johnny Adam Flick Hagan. I don't want to see me. I don't really want to watch the race either. But Johnny Adam is a very safe pair of hands. He's almost an entire minute behind Yelmer Berman, but 12 seconds in front of Ryan Radcliffe. So for Flick Hagan, Johnny Adam, the British GT title overall is looking like it may be settled. However, Century Motorsports came here with 2 dogs in the hunt in the GT4 battle and still have 2 dogs in the hunt, and it looks as though the tables have been turned on Jack Mitchell by Ben Green and Ben Tuck. But it's not over yet. 9 minutes to go.
Well, especially because somewhere in amongst all of that, Jack Mitchell's gained another place. And so now he's back in front. So it's now Jack Mitchell.
He's still behind Scott Morvan on our timing screen.
As again, this is all coming direct from people in the championship who should know what's going on. They reckon he's now a point in front. So it continues to change by the lap.
We will wait and see. He may have passed him on the track that hasn't been recovered at the line by the timing screen. But either way, well, there is Jack. So what's the car in front of him? Is it the back end of a Mercedes?
Yeah,
it is still a Mercedes, so he's still behind Scott Morvan.
But that is still 8th in class, and that was the magic number, was 8th position at the moment, unless the number 4 McLaren can find 17 seconds. 8th position was the magic position he had to be in. So 43 by the skin of his teeth, and at the moment the top 3 in the championship are separated by 2 points. It's 124 for Mitchell, 123 for the number 42 BMW, 122 for the number 4 McLaren. So it couldn't be any closer, and any singular positional change will change the outcome of the title inside the last 8 minutes.
Well, Flick Haig there on the right-hand side of the Aston Martin garage, and there is the Century Motorsport team. Look, whichever way this happens, it looks as though they are going to end up with a title. BMW's first year in GT4 with the M4. That is going to be pretty impressive. Century Motorsport with 2 possibilities here, and the cards have fallen very nicely for them. The number 4 McLaren, as you say, 17 seconds behind the leader. So basically, in 7 minutes, got to catch 17 seconds, and a lot more got to come up behind the number 10 McLaren with a massive head of steam to try and get by Finlay Hutchinson. And you sense in the final minutes of the race, that's not going to be easy. Here's Johnny Adam, all sorts of history being made here today, again at Donington Park. Flick Haig on the way to becoming the first female British GT champion outright, after Jamie Chadwick won in the GT4 a couple of years ago. Johnny Adam on the way to his 3rd British GT title. tightening the lap belts or tightening the seat belts again. I can see he's nervous, can't you?
Well, wouldn't you be? You're 7 minutes away from making history. I mean, that doesn't come around every day, does it? Even for someone of Johnny Adams' calibre and experience.
And of course, he could be heading towards his 4th title if he hadn't been excluded from a race at Snetterton a few years ago. Then he would have won 3 titles already with Beach Dean's Andrew Howard. But Andrew, when he won that title on his own, said, as far as I'm concerned, there are 2 champions, me and Johnny, because he's been with me at every race, and it's only because of that partnership that I'm ending up winning the championship. So for Johnny Adam, this will be a 3rd actual and a 4th moral British GT champion. But still, he's got to navigate the traffic, and David, you know, in the pit lane, every time he comes up behind another car, it's, oh, be careful, be careful, be careful, isn't it, you know? Just so out of your control.
Mark Farmer's reaction was, I think, how every co-driver reacts effectively. I think the pressure's off Johnny in terms of he's not being attacked from behind. He's well up from where he needs to be of his minimum mark. Niki Team's taking points off of Phil Keane and John Minshaw. So he just needs to keep his nose clean.
There is Jack Mitchell working his way through the old hairpin, provisional points leader in GT4.
And same deal for him, you know, he needs to keep his nose clean. He can't get involved in anybody else's problems, whether it's dirt on the track, a bit of debris, somebody has a spin, you know, none of that. He's got to be hyper aware of what else is going on that he can't control, so he can try and avoid it.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a catastrophic collision that wipes him out of the race. All he needs is a spin or a sort of lazy run out onto the grass to avoid someone else spinning. If he loses more than 3.5 seconds, he'll lose a position and he'll lose the championship. It's as simple as that. So he's only 3.5 seconds at the moment. Sorry, excuse me, he's 8 seconds ahead of the 22 machine of Wolf behind. That car's been up and down a bit all day, hasn't it? That's a decent result, though, on the cars for the Jaguars. They haven't had enough luck this season, have they? Good to see them getting to the finish. We've had one of them rotating, but that really has been the only drama.
Well, you know, it's a brand new team, it's a brand new car, undeveloped. It doesn't have, you know, quite the run-up that the BMW M4 program had. So, you know, and it's a brand new team to the championship as well. And actually, I mean, you know, the cars are being good to look at, they've been well driven, and you need experience, you know, you need to start somewhere. This is the foothills of their Mount Everest for the Invictus Games team, and really, you know, it's a fantastic program, and be really, really pleased to see it continue, not just because it's a team that, you know, it's growing fan base, but also because it brings another manufacturer in with Jaguar, and you can't have. Sports car racing needs lots of different colours, lots of different shapes, lots of different noises, and the more you have, the better it all is.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is again another one of those cars that you hear people murmuring about when you wander through the paddock, and when you stand trackside with them. I stood trackside yesterday and watched free practice, and that was definitely a car that had a lot of cameras pointed at it as it came through. It looks and sounds phenomenal. So too does this car, and it's a car that we may not see that much of as of next year, because this of course could be the swan song of the V12 Vantage GT3 for Aston Martin. They've got an awful lot of them out there, almost half of the GT3 grid, but it will be replaced next year by the newer model. Oh, there's time for one more bit of paint training. That's Johnny Cocker and
Ryan Ratcliffe. And in there is Darren Turner as well.
Who could get both of them. They're leaning on each other.
All for 5th. And Darren Turner's going to try and go the long way around Johnny Cocker.
Oh, what's Ratcliffe?
Ratcliffe is the Lamborghini from behind again. Now, has there been a little bit of bad blood between them earlier in the race? Earlier in the lap, maybe? Ryan Ratcliffe surges by.
Not much
I'm not sure how much tyre is left on the Lamborghini.
Yes, or how much bodywork's left on the front of the Bentley.
We saw them change and put sticker tyres on the car, at least on the rear of the car. Now, but he's just about to go a lap down to John Minshaw.
This will be why Ratcliffe is aggrieved, potentially, because he'll feel that he was served from behind by the Lamborghini there. In fairness, there's then, well, yes, read into that what you see, but that looked almost like that could have been avoided, but he got placed back at the next corner anyway, so the Bentley, which is falling apart around him, Ryan Ratcliffe is at least still 6th.
And hang on a minute, now you've got Struan Moore, the number 24 Nissan. He's in this battle as well, behind Cocker and Ratcliffe.
And then the race leader trying to find a way through. This could get interesting, couldn't it? Because actually, Niki Team is still only 2.5 seconds ahead of Phil Keane. If he gets delayed here, Phil could close back in.
What do you mean if?
Well, yes, here it is. It's happening now.
What's one of the cars in front that he's got to try and get by?
Phil Keane's teammate. I see the point you're making, yes.
Well, apart from the fact that Johnny Cocker doesn't want to get tucked up by Ryan Radcliffe in the Bentley or by Struan Moore in the Nissan, you know, the fact that he might be holding up Niki Team, I think, to be honest, to Johnny Cocker, is neither here nor there. However, Niki Team has got to get by through this fairly frantic three-way battle. You saw how it took a bit of luck for Darren Turner to get through cleanly.
2 laps to go as well, so this could get changed. 2.2 seconds.
And 2.2 seconds at the line between the leaders, and the leader in the blue number 11 Aston Martin is stuck behind the Nissan that last time round was 1.6 seconds slower than the leaders have been running. So that pretty much accounts this lap for the 2.2 second lead gap. By the time they get to the end of the lap, Niki Team, if he's still behind the Nissan and the Lamborghini and the Bentley, will also have the 33 Lamborghini breathing up his exhaust.
Yes, because of course all of the GT4 traffic they've been dealing with, as Struan Moore does now gentlemanly move out of the way. The GT4 traffic, even if they don't actively get out of your way, the GT3 cars are quick enough that they can go through, but actually Struan Moore is not letting him through. With the GT3, 30-second time penalty for Niki Team. What's that for? 30-second time penalty for track limits. Track limit, would you believe it? The race leader, and here comes Phil Keane anyway. Phil Keane's on the inside. Well, they're going to inherit the lead anyway, but they may not know that yet. Niki Team fights back.
He won't know, and he won't care. He won't be listening to anybody shouting on the radio. If anybody's shouting at him now, they're doing nobody any favours. And right now, Phil Keane is going to try and win this race on the last lap, onto which the leaders are just about to venture. So, Johnny Adam and Flick Haig are a minute and a half away from being champions. Jack Mitchell might be a minute and a half away from being a champion. Oh, hang on a minute. Drive-through penalties converted into 30-second penalties for pit stop infractions.
That's what it is.
For number 11, for number 1, and for number 24, which is the RJN Nissan. So their 30-second penalties are not for track limits, well they are, but they're in lieu of the drive-through for constantly exceeding track limits. Wow, so the race leader, the car that lies 6th and the car that lies 8th, all hit with a post-race 30-second penalty. So it will be, hang on a minute, 33 wins. Where does the number 11 car end up then if it's 30 seconds back? Still in front of Jelmer Berman, who's 51 seconds back. So does that affect Johnny Adam and Flick Haig? No. Stop doing this! Don't make me do maths on the last lap of the season, for goodness sake! So, all right, let's reset this. The checkered flag awaits, and it will fly for the number 11 Aston Martin, and Niki Team may think that he has won the race, but in the end, he will have to serve, or will be handed, a 30-second post-race penalty, and victory will go to the number 33 Lamborghini. Phil Keane and John Minchell win for a 3rd time this season. It is not enough. They will not win the title again. Waiting for the 2nd place car to come across the line. Niki Team now shown us 29.5 seconds back, and that will mean that Jelmer Berman and Lee Mole should be in 2nd position in the Mercedes.
I think they'll still be 3rd, Martin. I don't think they were within 30, were they, of the leader?
You might be right. You might be right. Okay, so maybe Niki Team in 2nd place. Where's the Mercedes? There's 55. Who's taken the checkered flag? The leader has not yet in GT4. Has.
This is the 40.
That's 42, is it?
Okay.
Or...
That's the 43.
No, that was 43 through, yes.
So 42 has, 43 has, 10 and 4 have yet to come through. So they will complete their lap, and coming out, Jelmer Berman in 3rd in the Mercedes, coming out of the final corner in 4th place. Johnny Adam and Flick Haig are the British GT3 champions, the overall British champions for 2018. And And there is the number 10 McLaren. That has come across the line to win in GT4. The number 4 McLaren is on its way. And that will finish in second on the road ahead of the 56 McLaren of David Patterson and Joe Osborne. So it's a McLaren 1, 2, 3 in the race. But the points seem to suggest by our maths, never do maths live on air. That's my cardinal rule. We believe that Jack Mitchell is the GT4 champion. Well, if the racing wasn't exciting, the maths would have been, but luckily, Jonathan Palmer. Jonathan Palmer, whose MSV operation is now running Donington Park, will be sending an invoice to Niki Team pretty much as we speak. For grass damage, you can understand that. Niki Team, this morning he was so pleased to be racing at Donington Park. So I just love this place. I've never been here in my life. Really like this place. Well, Jack Mitchell has raced last year here in GT3. In fact, they didn't do the final race, did they, in the GT3 Macmillan car last year. Raced here in GT4 the year before. And I think the team have confirmed to him that in his 3rd season, he is a British GT champion.
Yeah, fantastic. We've seen this all day, haven't we, with champions being crowned, and the emotion as it hits you on the in-lap is quite something.
Could just hear lots of wheel spin in front of us. I'm hoping that was on the track in front of the pit lane rather than actually in the pit lane. Jack Mitchell comes in.
He can't believe it.
Yeah.
Good lad.
Good lad. So he is the British GT4 champion, and he's also the silver class champion, I guess. Does that mean?
I'm imagining you're right. I don't have that on my piece of paper, but I think you're right.
One of the very few permutations that we don't have. GT4. Well, there is Niki Team and Mark Farmer. And what a great boost for these drivers it has been to have factory pros in with them, because you learn, every day's a school day. We're talking about that earlier on. You learn so much from these guys, from their attitude, from their mental awareness, everything else. It can't help but rub off on the team, on the drivers. And the performance level of the championship has just ratcheted up yet another notch.
Yes, as far as the Pro AM Championship in GT4, by the way, the 6016 Parker Mercedes will win that one. They finished quite comfortably ahead of their only rivals, 53 Nissan, so they will win that class. They led it by just 3 points coming into this final round. They extend that with their strong result today.
Yeah, the 53 car with that extra pit stop not helping them earlier on.
No, indeed. As far as the GT3 teams are concerned, I think that TF Sport have held on, but of course it was a good day for Barwell with a win and a 6th place for them. TF Sport had a 2nd and a DNF. So actually, well, they were 31 points in front. I'm not going to even try and figure that one out.
No, I'd stay well clear of that if I were you.
Yes, but that's going to be closing up quite nicely as well, actually. In GT4, though, the Century Motorsport team will be confirmed as team champions there as well, I'd imagine.
Well, mixed fortunes, I'm afraid, for my breakfast partners. Jack Mitchell ends up champion. Niki Team and Mark Farmer looked like they were going to win the race, but end up in 2nd position. And there is Flick Haig with Johnny Adam. And that's the end of a very nervous hour, perhaps a very nervous week, I should think, for Flick Haig. He may not have slept very well for a bit.
There's a story behind it.
Johnny Adam out of the car, and it's good to see what it means to Johnny as well. Someone who's been there and done it all. I mean, he's won this little championship 3 times now. You'd think that the novelty would wear off almost, but when you put a full season of work into it, and my word, they've had to work for it this season. One of the more competitive seasons in which they've become champions, and it's good to see that really does still mean something to a man who has raced everywhere you would want to race, really, in GT racing. Won most of the big GT races as well across the world. And yet here he is, a very happy champion indeed. Down in amongst that somewhere is Andy J, who I believe has found our 2018 GT3 champions.
Yes, I have them both here. Both look utterly shattered, but absolutely thrilled to bits. Johnny, there's almost a tear in your eye. That's history, baby. 3 in a row. Well, 3-time champion in British GT. Incredible.
Yeah, it's an awesome feeling. I have to say a massive thank you to to Flick and the team, that was a hard race, you know. We think of the championship, obviously, you know, stuff like, you know, we had a bit of contact throughout the race, but everyone was respectful out there. But it's just such a great feeling, you know. We put so much work behind the scenes this year, and final race of the old girl, and she delivered, you know. But I have to say, Flick's driven so well this year, and she's a deserved champion. And it's mega that we both share a bit of history today, so top job.
Very, very special, Flick. You've had a little bit of time to think about how this makes you feel now, but it's only really just sinking in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's something that I didn't or couldn't even dream of at the beginning of the year. You know, it was a learning year for me. New car, new teammate, and you know, Johnny's right. We have worked so hard, and as we've got momentum like throughout the year, we've just got better and better, and we've gelled with the team, Johnny and everything, and everyone gives 110% within optimum, and it just shows that it just pays off. So.
And you've carried the weight the whole season of being a female role model, and you've really smashed that, haven't you? You've really delivered.
I hope so. Like, I mean, I don't see myself as a female, like, I'm a driver when I'm in the car and stuff, but, you know, I hope it opens people's eyes to motorsport is for everybody, and that would be a nice legacy from this for me.
You're both so impressively calm. I think I'm more emotional than the pair of you, but it means the world to the pair of you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know, it's a little behind-the-scenes stuff that we do, but all tops up to make the performance as good as possible. And I have to say, this girl here, she puts in so much effort behind the scenes. People don't realise she wanted it so badly this year. And I said to her in November, when obviously Aston said, you know, you're going with Optimum and Flick, I did say, if we're clever and we put something together, we could be champions. And it was close in the end, but yeah, it's just a great feeling for everyone in the team.
That's the catchphrase, Johnny. You were clever. You put something together.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a massive team effort. Every motorsport is, you know, and the boys have worked so hard. You know, we've had some bad rounds and some good rounds, but they've really dug deep, and the car's been great all year, so top job to them.
It's party time now, isn't it?
I think so.
Go and enjoy it. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. Fantastic.
Belated birthday parties as well, the two of them born just 6 days apart.
Thank you very much.
I won't tell you when. 10th of September for Flick and the 4th of September for Johnny Adam. So congratulations to the two of them. And Flick Haig, like Jamie Chadwick, showing that in this championship, it doesn't matter where you're from or who you are. If you get a good team, a good car and a good partnership together, the world is your lobster. And Jack Mitchell, well, 3 different teammates this year on his way to the GT4 title. So again, you've got to make the best of what you have. And in every race, David Pittard, that's all part of it as well. But John Minshaw, you know, he's got to wonder what on earth it is that he has to do. He's led the championship almost all year. Again and again comes to Donington as one of the names in the hat, and again Lady Luck has passed him over.
Yeah, I think they can go away with their heads held high. All they could do is what they could control, and they went out and won the race in relatively, well, fairly dominant fashion. That and the number 11 TF car were well ahead of the rest of the cars. So, and John, for his first stint, especially before the safety car, made the most of that clear track and just got away.
Yeah. So a 3rd win this season for John Minshaw and Phil Keane, ahead of Mark Farmer and Niki Team after that track limits penalty for the first car to the flag. Lee Mole, Yelmer Berman and the Mercedes rounding out the podium ahead of Flick Haig and Johnny Adam, the champions. Darren Turner with Andrew Howard winless this season, and Sam DeHaan and Johnny Cocker ending up in the top half dozen. The first of the Bentleys in 7th ahead of its teammate. The Nissan rounding out in 9th after its penalty was applied, and the Johnson-Robinson McLaren the top 10 finishers. So the GT4 victory went to the number 10 McLaren, ahead of McLaren at number 4, with the 56 McLaren in 3rd position. Then the Toyota GT86 just edged out of a podium spot ahead of the Benz Green and Tuck, and critically in 20th place overall, just in enough points, is Dean McDonald and the new GT4 champion. So Jack Mitchell wins the title in GT4, and those are the rest of the runners and riders. That is your classified pools check at the end of the 9th and final round of the British GT Championship here at sunny Donington Park. And as ever, the season finale fraught with mathematical possibilities and lots of close racing.
Well, drivers then, Martin, are making their way up onto the podium. This is going to be a busy podium. We'll have several different presentations, of course, and out come the first group of drivers, and that will be Jelmer Berman, Nimo heading up third position outright for them and within GT3. Niki Team gets on the podium, but not quite the step of the podium that we thought he was going to occupy. He and Mark Farmer, though, delighted. Certainly Mark Farmer is. Look at that, grinning from ear to ear after his second place finish. But the victory in the final race of the season goes to Phil Keane and John Minshaw, and that is their second victory of 2018. And the Demon Tweaks pairing, who have grown to be synonymous with this championship over the years, and it's good to see that they're still as strong as ever. And Phil Keane with another victory to add to his immense list of sports car and GT racing accolades over the years. They hold the winner's trophy aloft, and a fantastic sight it is to see them up there. John Minshaw with a smile on his face, despite the fact that they've not won the championship. I don't think that they necessarily came here expecting to be champions. They hoped, of course they did, but they knew that they need things out of their control to happen to give them the championship. They did everything they could.
Do you know what? I think John actually probably comes here expecting not to win the championship, because that's what history has sort of handed him over the years, whether they've been the leaders or the chasers. You know, they've been in the hunt pretty much every year. I think he's been in British GT. But do you know what? You know, here in Phil, as I said, you know, they've done a lot of racing. They did the Spa 6 Hours, they did Goodwood Revival, they've done, you know, so much racing in historic cars and in modern GTs. You know, they're racing almost every weekend. So in the end, okay, it didn't come their way this time. There is, it was the fastest lap trophy there for a Niki Team, 1:28.19. And the next fastest lap was a 28.40, so he was comfortably quicker than anybody else on the track. And your champions, not in the top three, finished in fourth place. Enough points and a comfortable enough job. Flick did what she needed to do, David Pittard. She got the car through to the pit stops undamaged, undaunted, and handed it on to Johnny Adam. Luckily, they had the points lead coming in. They didn't need to win it. And in the end, the points are what make the difference. So, while they're busy taking the accolades, everybody else is breaking busy with a fizzy. So they may end up getting a bit of an unexpected shower there.
That's what you get for winning the championship. Yep.
Yes.
Champagne. You smell like a winner.
Shower. Yeah.
Exactly right. First podium for the Mercedes as well, isn't it, for Lee Mole and Jelmer Berman, if I recall?
Now hang on, I seem to remember winning a race earlier on this season.
My computer's gone
yes,
flat.
they did.
Oh,
I think it was Rockingham. I seem to remember that they took a victory, where again they sort of came out of nowhere towards the second half of the race and emerged in the final few minutes as the
correct.
And they've driven well this season. The Mercedes is a strong car. We see that when it races internationally, and you do feel that maybe they benefit from having some teammates here. Now these are the points then for GT3. So there is the confirmation: 167.5 for Flick Hay. Why do you score half points? Well, they double the amount of points available in the longer races that there would be for the shorter 60-minute sprint. So you end up with half points occasionally. The same goes for Minshaw and Keane in second, 159.5 for them. They do though fend off Mark Farmer and Niki Team for third, and Nimo and Jelmer Berman, they're backing up my point. They've had a consistent season.
Yeah, very good.
Fourth in the championship for them. And Beechdean, on their return to the championship this year after a bit of a sabbatical, they're in the top 5 at the end of the year, despite another slightly disappointing final round to Donington Park. There is the confirmation that it was right. 2 points covering the top 3 teams in GT4. Jack Mitchell takes the championship by a singular point, or in other words, 1 position on the track over Ben Tuck and Ben Green, his teammates.
And again, it could have been a half point, depending on how they'd finished in some of the longer races as well. So, yeah, that's phenomenally tight. And after all the dramas in that class, both the 42 and the 43 BMWs getting stop-and-go penalties, don't forget. So that just added to the lack of nails, I think, probably remaining in the Century Motorsport garage. So they don't, either of them, finish on the podium. So again, like Fleek and Johnny, Jack will come out onto the podium on his own, because it was a McLaren clean sweep Now, I wonder what would have happened, whether the McLarens would have been even more numerous at the front of the field if it had been raining. Certainly, I think the Lamborghinis would really have liked a wet race, not just because it reduces the chances of everybody else having good traction, but because when you're at the front, when it's wet, it tends to help you a little bit more as well. I think the McLarens would probably have done well in the rain for the same reason, because a mid-engine car has a little bit better balance than some of their front-engine rivals.
And of course, we saw quite a few of the potential heavy hitters in GT4 in trouble right from the word go with that first corner incident at Redgate. And if any one of those cars hadn't been involved in that and had been able to go on and finish as high as they ought to have been, then that could have changed the championship outcome as well. And that's what it takes to win a championship. You need everything to go right when it matters. And for this man, it has. Jack Mitchell wins the championship as a solo effort, essentially, because he's had multiple different co-drivers over the year. But he will be our GT4 champion.
And in fact, this is the first of 2 titles he's been chasing. He's chasing the Chinese GT Championship title as well, and he is still points leader there as well. So this could end up being a bit of a blue ribbon year for him. But he has won the title in GT4 with BMW, and continues his Chinese campaign with Aston Martin. So flagging himself up on a lot of people's radars, Jack Mitchell, the GT4 champion. Well, finally they worked out how to get the corks out of the bottle. I'm not sure slamming it on the ground is really recommended by many sommeliers. However, yeah, what needs must, I suppose.
It worked for me at Spa the other weekend. Danny Ricciardo set that trend.
Well, that's not the way it's done. Yeah, you need to go online and watch Tom Coronel's How to Empty a Champagne Bottle in One Easy Move lesson, and the lesson is to turn it upside down before you release the gas, because then there is always liquid at the open end. So there you go. That's the 101. So quick word with Jack Mitchell from Alan Hyde for the fans here, and I'm sure he will be a very happy boy to have just squeezed across the line, because with 2 points over the top 3 teams, that's insane. Well, down in the sunshine, enjoying the weather, is Andy J.
Well, I'm with probably the most relieved man here at the whole of Donington Park. He's had to do maths as well as racing, but he's come out on top. How are you feeling?
No, over the moon, yeah. Wasn't really expecting it in that one. I was quite happy at the front in 3rd position, and then I got told I had the drive-through to take, stop and go, but from then I was just trying to figure out when I came back on track what I needed to do, and I just needed to overtake the Jag to keep in position to get the win by 1 point at the end, which I managed to do, and the stress going on in there was quite a lot for me. I'm not really good at maths anyway, so I was trying to figure it all out, but over the moon. Can't thank the team enough for everything they've done this year. Century Motorsport have been amazing. BMW as well for all their help, and especially my 3 teammates who had this year, Ricky Collard, Alex and Dean McDonald. So
let's talk about the tears. Is that champagne or is that genuine emotion? Because I feel like there's a little bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah, my eyes are a bit red, so it's definitely the champagne on that one, but no, I'm very grateful and I'm emotional as well, but it's been quite hard, especially with them the last couple of laps there. Kind of couldn't really build it up a lot. It was all a bit of a shock, but no, really happy.
Well, let me just say to you, 2018 GT4 champion, how does that feel?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
You can say that to everyone now.
Yeah, not bad, is it? Yeah, I'll take that.
Well done, congratulations to you. It's been emotional, huh?
Just a bit, yeah.
Good boy, well done. Brilliant.
Yeah, on the slowing down lap, he was clearly wiping sweat out of his eyes. That's what it was. Yep, definitely. Listen, if you're not emotional on winning a championship, get to a doctor quickly, because they might need to restart your heart. Well, what a race it was. 2 hours of high drama from start to finish here at Donington Park. Fortunately, for most, the weather was fine, but for the Lamborghinis on the front row of the grid, the job was quite simple. For John Mincher and Phil Keane, nothing other than victory would do. And for their teammate Sam Dahan in 2nd place, holding off the rest of the field was going to be a critical part of that equation. GT4 started getting a little bit raggedy right from the very first corner, and GT3 didn't take long to follow either. Dahan drove a superb stint under enormous pressure. The 22-year-old rookie to the championship, fending off drivers with years and in some cases decades more experience of top flight racing. And in the GT4 category, the slide rules were just as relevant as the timing screens, as everybody tried to work out the points permutations. Well, Mark Farmer in the number 11 car, a slight outsider for the championship, also drove a great stint, but after one safety car period had almost wiped out their lead, the 33 Lamborghini came into the pit lane in front and barely lost the lead at all. Battles further back with Flick Haig and Johnny Adams, championship leading number 75 Aston Martin, trying to stay out of trouble in a battle with Rick Parfitt and Ryan Radcliffe's Bentley. In the end, Niki Team managed to run down Phil Keane and make the pass, but he hadn't done it without abusing track limits. That would come back to haunt him. A bit of paint swapping, rubbing and racing in the final few laps. At the line, the number 11 Aston was first. Victory went to the Lamborghini, but Johnny Adam and Flick Haig ended up as the champions.